Okay, well, why don't we begin? Good evening. My name's Louis George. I'm the chair of the Danvers Planning Board, and we're here for our public meeting today, June 11th, 7 p.m. at the Toomey Room at Danvers Town Hall.
7 p.m. at the Toomey Room at Danvers Town Hall.
Okay. We may need to go and,
He has a 7-second delay.
Probably
He
shouldn't have
usually
both.
swears.
right.
I can mute mine, I guess.
Can we go and mute us here? At least the audio? Yep. Okay. All right, to my left here, I have Michael DeCoulis, who's an associate member, Jean Hartnett, member who's actually going to be serving as acting clerk today. Tori Adler, our clerk, is not here today. And to my right is Tim Spittle, and then Jim Sears is here as well. So we have a number of agenda items today, and I know we have a number of people here today. So just wanted to go over a couple of things, first of all, before we begin. So with respect to our first three items are not public hearings, but we'll be discussing those issues. But the last two items are going to be public hearings. Items that are not indicated as public hearings, the applicant will be presenting, and then the members of the board may ask questions. At the discretion of the chair, we may solicit public comment. Again, that's the discretion of the chair. For items that are a public hearing, just to kind of walk you through in terms of how that would go forward, the applicant would provide a presentation. Then it comes back to the members of the board, where we will ask questions of the applicant, may make comments to the applicant. Then, because it is a public hearing, it would turn to members of the public who may be able to ask questions of the applicant. All questions or comments are to be directed through the chair. So there's not going to be a back and forth with the members of the public and the applicant. It would be going through the chair. And please ensure, we have a number of people here today, please make sure that your comments are succinct to the best you can, and not to be repetitive. So, but we'll go forward more in terms of the sort of the rules of the game as we move along. So let's first of all move to the first agenda item here at our meeting today. It is agenda item 1 is 83 Conant Street, and it's a request by BCH Realty Trust, Clark and Heather Labby, trustees, for endorsement of an approval not required A&R plan for 83 Conant Street, Assessor's Map 44, Lot 43, to create one new non-buildable lot. The property is located in the Residential 2 R2 zoning district. Is there someone here to present on behalf of the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, if you can please identify yourself and...
My name is Joe Small. I'm a land surveyor from Hancock Associates. I brought a presentation board if you think it would help.
Sure.
Or you can just look at it on the screen.
I think we have it on the screen. As long as we can see it, that should be sufficient.
The purpose of the plan is to divide the existing property, 83 Conant Street. It currently runs all the way from Conant Street down to Elliott Street. The building, there was an existing building on the frontage up on Conant Street, and that is being divided off to be sold to continue as a residential building lot. The property in back is a non-buildable lot. It's going to be combined with other land owned by the Labbies also on Elliott Street. And that's pretty much it. The front lot is undersized, and we received a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals a few months ago to allow that. So that is referenced on the plan as well.
Okay. You say a few months ago, is this the ZBA approval? This is dated August 3rd of 2023?
Has it been that long? I didn't realize it had been that long. Yes, that's the one that's referenced.
Time flies. Okay. Very good. Do you have anything further, at least?
I do not.
Okay, I'll turn it over to members of the board if there's any questions. Jean?
No questions.
Okay. Mike?
No questions.
Jim?
No questions.
Tim?
No questions.
Okay. Very good. This is not a public hearing, but are there any members of the public who wish to comment or ask any questions through the chair? Okay. Hearing none, shall I entertain a motion? on the A and R?
I move that we approve the A&R.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the A and R be approved for 83 Conan Street. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the A and R is endorsed.
Thank you very much. Hope the
Thank
rest of
you.
your night goes the same.
Okay. We'll see. Yes. What's that?
I'm not sure if we necessarily allow public comment on
No, we don't necessarily allow. No, I just said it was a public comment.
just in light of the next one.
Okay, very good. All right, next item is 20 and 22 Hardy Street and 17 Florence Street. And it's a request by Paul and Karen Fitch for endorsement of an approval not required A&R plan for 20 and 22 Hardy Street and 17 Florence Street. Assessors map 52, lots 68 and 77, to reflect a court order issued in August 2022. The properties are located in the residential R1 zoning district. Is there someone here to present?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. Robert Scarano, Tewksbury, Massachusetts. I'm an attorney representing Karen and Paul Fitch, who are with me this evening. We're here with a plan that's in front of you that does not depict the subdivision and is entitled to a A&R endorsement. Of course, it has a brief history if you need to hear it from me. I'd be glad to do that. 2018, we were before this board, same parties, and the A&R plan was endorsed. It went to an appeal, certiorari. The court issued a judgment indicating that the plan was properly endorsed. It had adequate access and adequate frontage and met all the requirements of the A&R requirements in Danvers. Since that time, there was a land court trial of which an abutter claimed portions of the Fitch's lot. And through a trial that lasted several days, Judge Foster, who also had the original appeal, issued a judgment that is now reflected on this plan. The actual reflection of the plan is that the abutter had fenced in a small area. That area was transferred to him by judgment of the court. There's also a small area and a building that was transferred to him by judgment of the court. What we have now is the plan that serves two purposes. One, because there was land that was taken by judgment, the lots had to require and comply with zoning. They do now comply with zoning. They also indicate that they have the necessary frontage under the bylaw, and they also provide vital access to the building area of the lot. So the actual judgment issued by Judge Foster is now reflected, and this will become the judgment plan when it's recorded along with the judgment from the land court. And we're asking for an endorsement because both of these parcels of land have frontage on separate streets, both Hardy and Florence Street respectively, inadequate amounts providing vital access to the buildable portions of the lot, and it is not a subdivision.
Okay. Very good. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to the members of the board for any questions. Jim?
No questions. I feel that it meets the requirements of an A&R. It's properly laid out on the plan, and it's basically a formality for the board to endorse it.
Very good. Jean?
No questions.
Tim?
No questions.
Mike?
No questions, thanks.
The only question I had is with respect to for the applicant, is respect to the letter that the board did receive from an attorney Kornitsky with respect to this, to the A&R plan, and raised a concern with respect to the requisite frontage.
The issue with the frontage was decided, and Mr. Kornitsky was the attorney of record in that case. It went in front of Judge Foster, certiorari. He issued a judgment. Mr. Morose, who is the client of Mr. Kornitsky, is stopped there's an estoppel issue. Not only is there a collateral estoppel issue, because he was the original party, he can't raise that again. Not here, not anywhere, not in a land court. Not only that, he's judicially estopped. There's a judgment. The judgment says that the lots have the requisite frontage and the lots have vital access to the buildable portion of the lot. There is nothing further to be discussed by Mr. Korniski or Mr. Morose.
Okay. As I said, we received his letter, so thank you for addressing that.
No problem.
That question. Okay. I have no further questions. What is the will of the, entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we endorse the A&R for 20 and 22 Hardy Street and 17 Florence Street.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, very good. There's a second. All in favor? Please indicate
Aye.
by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is 99 Andover Street. Group 1 Automotive returning to the planning board after obtaining a certificate of occupancy for a new Subaru car dealership at 99 Andover Street, Assessors Map 56, Lot 13, to report on and address any issues. Is there someone to present?
Good evening, yes. My name is Jeff Kleiner. I am the Director of Operations for Group 1 Automotive in the Northeast. I was before you when we first did this project and needed permitting. And I'm here tonight basically just because you all summoned me here because it's after, 6 months after, it's actually been a little bit longer, but to come back and report on any issues. I do not believe there to be any. We did have, we went in there in February of '23, and I received one phone call from a neighbor about the car horns, which I address on a daily basis. My office is actually the very back, I don't know if you're familiar with the property, but the very back building where the old Porsche dealership was, which abuts that villages of homes over there. So I'm out quite a bit, consistently send communication out to my employees. Can't control customers sometimes when they're trying to find their car, but I think overall we have no audible alarm security when we have no truck car drop-offs in that area. So like I said, I've only received one phone call in a year to see if I could jump on it again, and nothing since. So I'm looking for all the conditions to be removed and permitting and occupancy to be granted.
Okay, very good. I just had a question before we turn it over to members of the board, just a question for staff in terms of, and it's my understanding from reviewing the previous materials that this, I believe it was a condition of a special permit approval, was that the applicant would return to the planning board with 6 months after obtaining a certificate of occupancy to report on any issues of interest with respect to noise and provide notice to abutters.
Yep, that's correct. The project received the final certificate of occupancy in December of 2023. There were over 230 abutters who were notified that this was going to be discussed tonight.
Okay.
The planning office, over the past year, 6 months, has not received any correspondence from any abutters or neighbors. So, just for informational purposes for the board.
Got it. And so in terms of the action that's to be, that the board needs to take tonight?
No particular action or motion, but just this action in of it itself is what the condition was
I see.
referring to.
So the return here today would satisfy the condition?
Correct.
Okay, well, let me go and turn it over to the members of the board to see if they have any questions at all. Jean?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mike?
No questions.
Jim?
No questions. I would just see if there's anyone in the audience that has any input
Okay.
after we're done.
No questions.
No question.
We got a couple people over there.
What's that? Sure. Yeah, do you have some?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I did want to note on the email that Josh sent, and just for
Sure, please.
clarification of the record, the address is 97 Andover Street. My email says 99. 99 is my Toyota dealership, 97, if it matters for anything official.
It's, it is, from the town, the official address is 99, but
Okay,
we don't, we
yeah,
don't
it's
have
all,
to,
it's all
address is
continuous.
99.
we don't have to get it.
All right, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Very good. This is not a public hearing, but if members of the public have any comments, please come to the podium, identify yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair, board members. My name is Donald Thompson. I reside at 107 Village Post Road in the Old Salem Village community.
Okay.
I have the distinction of being the unit owner closest to the subject property. Mr. Kleiner and I have spoken in the past once or twice. Thank you very much for your thoughts earlier. I'm going to share some very brief observations. You'll be happy to know my notes are only one page.
Okay.
I'm going to give you an example of what I experienced just these last 4 days. On Thursday, the 6th, I decided to work from home. I opened the window to enjoy the breeze, and that was about 9:30. First example of the use of the panic button with car honking was about 9:45. Second example of car honking by use of the panic button, about 2 minutes later, 9:47. As you may remember, use of the panic buttons to locate automobiles is prohibited under the special permit. And again, Thursday, at that point, I closed the window simply because I couldn't concentrate, and I stopped taking notes. Later that evening, or technically early Friday morning, I did discover a truck idling in the parking lot, and that would appear to follow on Peabody's prohibition against unloading vehicles in the middle of Route 114. And finally, my final example for your consideration is Saturday morning, the 8th, 5 a.m. I was awoken by car honking by use of the panic button. Weekends in particular, Saturdays specifically, are quite bad with instances of use of the panic button. I would quantify only by estimate by saying probably between 40 and 50 examples over the course of a single day.
Okay.
And again, I don't bother taking notes about specific instances. It is that bad. I don't know what actions the board can take, although I conclude based on your comments that there are none to be taken. But I was hoping that we might be able to issue fines to the applicant. I'm assuming that's not a possibility, for being in violation of the terms of the special permit. And thank you, Mr. Kleiner, for your efforts at educating your employees. Appreciate that. I take that at face value. I believe them to be true. However, I'll just conclude by saying they are wholly ineffective.
Okay.
But I'll answer any questions that the board or the chair may have.
Mr. Townsend, first of all, just a question with respect to, have you been in contact with Mr. Kleiner or with the dealership with respect to any of these incidents that took place?
I believe I was the one person that Mr.
Okay.
Kleiner referred to.
Gotcha.
So I made the one example of outreach, and things improved immediately for the short term. So I was appreciative of that.
Okay. May I ask Mr. Kleiner to come to the podium and just, if you could just respond to?
And just before I leave, just offer a correction. I wasn't clear earlier, perhaps. My last name is Thompson.
Oh, Thompson, I'm sorry.
Quite all right, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kleiner, do you have anything with respect to?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm.
It sounds like a lot of like people using panic buttons.
Yeah,
and that.
and I go myself go out on a lot and educate them. Unfortunately, the people that are generally doing it are valets and so forth. A position that has a lot of turnover, so it's a constant effort. The early morning one, I mean, there's no way to know for sure. Like the early morning one, for example, at 5 o'clock in the morning, that simply could have actually been an alarm activation by somebody opening a door. And I know at that time of day, it would wake me up. It happens in my own neighborhood. The truck, I'm not sure which truck or if it was an isolated one, but again, after, tomorrow will be another communication. We do have shop meetings, that just like, because a lot of them don't even look at email. Can verbally discuss it again. Trust me, I'm constantly on it. It's never going to be 100%. There are some, we also have, in the front end of the dealership, depending on the weather and the wind,
Right.
there is a dealership that's not ours, that's in front, beside
Right.
our Lexus store. They come from there quite a bit as well. So it's not just us, majority probably is, but it's not 100%. All I can tell you is it's never going to be 100%, and I just keep doing my best to educate.
Okay, we appreciate your efforts. Josh, just from town staff point, I mean, what is the, in terms of, I know it was mentioned in terms of the special permit, in terms of sort of the conditions of the special permit?
Sure. Yeah, so just looking that over during this, conversation, there is a condition that says there will be no outdoor audio, including the use of panic buttons at this location. So it is a condition in the special permit decision. That's what should be happening, on a daily basis.
Okay.
I guess.
So what would be for example, what would be Mr. Thompson's recourse?
I mean, he could certainly reach out to the planning department. We could assist with some type of, enforcement, and we could work with the applicant to, ensure that this is, continued. It's something that's important. Obviously, it's a condition in the special permit decision, so clearly, when this was granted, it was an important piece of, the decision and the conversation. So.
Specific contact with him, just within the planning department?
Yeah, it could be me, or all of our information's on the website. But if it continues to be a problem and to not decrease, it is an enforcement issue at that point. So I would recommend doing that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Is there anything else from any other members of the public? Yes, go ahead. Again, please identify yourself for the record.
Joanne Magucci, Town Meeting Member Precinct 2. I have one quick question, was about the truck car drop-off. Where does that usually happen on your property? Where does that usually happen on your
Why
property?
don't you direct that question through the chair?
I could show the plan.
Okay.
Okay.
So where does where does the drop-off take place? Josh, did you have something to?
Oh, I was just going to show the plan, I guess, if that would be helpful
Okay.
to the applicant.
Yeah, I
don't know.
don't have my glasses on, but it's not on 114. We do not have trailers parking in the middle of 114 for drop-off at this dealership. I know it's happening on 114. Definitely a safety issue, so I want to make sure that that's enforced by the town and the dealerships are not doing this. So I think that's one of my big questions. The other thing I want to add, I didn't know there'd be a resident from Old Salem Village. I actually am a former resident of Old Salem Village, and I'll kind of give a little more background to having to live behind the car dealerships. I was at 112, so over 20 years ago, and it's always been a problem, and I think it's definitely something the town really needs to lean into and enforce, because it's definitely a quality of life issue for people who live in that area. There's also some other industry, especially the back of the complex. So I think the town really needs to get serious about it, because now you're talking 20, 25 years ago it was going on. So just those are my comments on that, and just my concerns about where the trucks are being parked to unload cars, the time of day, and so forth. Definitely don't want it on 114, which I still see happening in Danvers.
Let me ask Mr. Kleiner that. Mr. Kleiner, can you respond in terms of the unloading of cars, when that takes place?
We don't have anybody that unloads further down, I do see what you're talking about, because we have the Audi dealership down the street, and I do see that further down. Our Toyota dealership has a completely off-site drop-off. It's up in Topsfield, so there's no Toyotas that are dropped off there. Lexus is dropped off behind Lowe's. So Subaru does come there, and they're gonna, if you're picturing our lot, they're supposed to come in that main, big main entrance between the Lexus dealership and the Toyota dealership, and there's a spot to drop there. Occasionally, if it's not the same driver, I mean, I don't think it happens all the time, but if there is, truck drivers are time is money, and if there's cars where they normally would go, they're gonna go to a different spot and drop off, typically to the left of the Subaru dealership, between where my office is, a far back building, in the front. But it's not, I'm not there when they drop them off every time. I don't believe it to be 100%. I'm sure that there are times where they just are in a wrong spot, so to speak.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Yeah, and I have never seen anybody drop off our dealership, our franchises on the road.
Okay.
But I have seen it, as she stated, further down.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've
And
heard.
that's why they put those, that's one of the reasons
Yeah.
the highway department, the state put those yellow cone, or, yeah, those roadblocks. That's what they,
Okay. Well, you've heard tonight, though, from, definitely some folks who have some concerns,
Yeah.
and there is a, and there is a special permit with conditions on it, so you do want to be mindful of that they do have the right to, to seek enforcement.
Sure, yep.
So the only thing I would commend you just to be, be diligent in terms of reminding employees, reminding customers, reminding the valets to make sure that they're in compliance.
yep, fair enough. And this is a gentleman I did speak to. He was here at the last meeting. He's got my contact information, I believe including my cell phone number. I didn't realize it was on my card when I gave it to him.
Okay.
But,
Good.
just reach out to me. I mean, I'm pretty easygoing, and it is a
Great.
constant reminder.
Good.
But I have 300 and some odd employees on that campus that are not the same 300 and something every month.
We appreciate appreciate being conscientious on it, though, okay? Just because we definitely have residents and abutters who live right nearby, and so
Sure.
this affects, for every one person who comes to the meeting, there might be others who are watching this at home, and they have the same concerns.
Oh, very well aware of
Okay.
that, yep.
So, okay. Very good. Is there anyone else, members of the public, who wanted to speak about this? No? Just coming back to the board, anybody else further comments from members of the board?
No.
Okay. I think we have there's nothing for us to vote on. This took place. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming today. Thanks for reaching out, and thank you thank you for coming and expressing your concerns as well. And please make sure to follow up if there's anything that town staff can do. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. Okay, next agenda item, this is the public hearing of 100 Independence Way, Liberty Tree Mall, request for site plan review pursuant to Section 4 of the zoning bylaw, submitted by Massachusetts Port Authority, Massport, for property in the Commercial 3 C3 zoning district. The applicant proposes to use the existing parking lot for Logan Express operations, final phase, temporary phase approved April 2024, with associated site modifications. Assessors map 63, lot 004. We have an applicant here, and please identify yourself, and you may begin.
Thank you very much. My name is Chris Grillo. I'm the Assistant Director for Transportation Business Administration at Massport and our Aviation Department. So the Logan Express system falls within that area. Thank you very much for receiving our preliminary application and approving our temporary design. Today we plan to present the full design and answer some of the questions that the board, the DPW, and others have posed to Massport. I have with me today Mike Gilmet, who is the Assistant Director for Vertical Projects, so more on the engineering side, and HNTB, our design consultant, will be making the formal presentation. We have James Barnack present here. We have some folks as well that have logged in. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to James.
Go ahead. And please identify yourself again, just for the
Thank you,
record.
Chris. James Barnack, HNTB, on behalf of Massport. Next slide, please. So this is the existing site. For those not familiar, this is within the Liberty Tree Mall area. On the right side is the Liberty Tree Mall. This plan is looking north. On the bottom is the Ford dealership. To the left of the white boundary is the Town of Danvers Police Department. In white, highlighted is the boundary that Massport is seeking for approval. This consists of two existing parking lots, the one with the school buses, and then on the right side is the Town of Danvers electric parking lot. Next slide, please. This is a site rendering plan of the proposed site. As you can see, we're maintaining the existing parking lot, and off to the right where the Town of Danvers parking lot is today, proposing a building and a short-term parking lot. You can also see there's a lot of new vegetation and trees around the site for stormwater control measures, low-impact development, improving the landscaping. Part of the project is utility enhancements for the building, increasing lighting and video surveillance for security, and also 2 curb cuts along Commonwealth Avenue. Next slide, please. HNTB, Massport, and the town have put in extensive coordination over the past year. Just kind of wanted to inform everyone. So we have coordinated with the town engineer with the initial temp design, and received that on April 22nd. The temporary drainage analysis provided to the town on May 14th, and we received final approval on May 28th. We also have obtained 2 permits, the site plan for the temp, which was approved by the planning board, and we also have a RDA for the temp, which the public hearing was on April 25th, and that was approved by Concom. We have 3 outstanding permits, the NOI, the final build-out, the stormwater permit, which we responded to the town's comments actually today, and they received that letter. And what we're here tonight is the site plan for the final build-out, which we submitted on May 9th. We received comments from the town on May 30th. We responded to the comments on June 6th. And we also received a second round of comments today, which we again responded to later this afternoon. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit more detailed of the site plan. What is showing here is really the landscaping elements around the parking lot, which includes wetland buffer plantings, proposed light and noise screen plantings. We're retaining as many trees as possible. We have proposed infiltration basins. We are providing a black aluminum fence around the perimeter that is shown in the bottom right. And we're also providing some shade trees to reduce for climate resiliency. Next slide, please. This is just a slide showing what type of plants may be proposed on the site. These are all native to the area and hardy. So it's color-coded. We have the wetland buffer plantings, the infiltration basin screening plantings, and then additional screening plantings. And really just trying to mix some trees, low shrubs, and some vegetation around, and really conscious of the video surveillance that we're putting in to make sure that any of the plantings that we do propose do not block the field of view to ensure security for both Massport and users alike. Next slide, please. This is a conceptual rendering of the one-story facility building. It's roughly around 6,300 square feet. This will be where users can buy tickets, use bathrooms. Massport will have a few offices for their employees, and there will also be a waiting area for people that are waiting for the buses to go to Logan Airport. There's also a canopy where you can see the pillars. The idea is the canopy would extend to the bus aisle so that people that are using the buses, either coming or going, would not have to deal with the inclement weather, rain or snow. Next slide, please. This is also just another view from the right side to show what the one-story building may look like. Next slide, please. This is our proposed drainage plan, and really kind of the takeaway here is there's a couple of drainage elements that we used to achieve. There's 10 stormwater regulations in the guidebook, and we achieve all 10 with this design using underground storage methods, infiltration basins, surface treatments that are in yellow, and then bioswales that are in green. And the bioswales and surface treatments we're mixing with the landscaping architecture with the plantings to kind of tie in to reduce stormwater pollution into the area. All the water from the site, from the top right, so the northeast, flows all the way to the bottom left, and it's connected to an existing 36-inch pipe that outfalls eventually to the Crane River. Next slide, please. This is a slide showing the proposed bus routes. On the left is the conceptual building location with the bus turns that use Commonwealth Avenue. They would make a counterclockwise turn into the bus apron that we showed in the conceptual rendering, pick up and drop off passengers, and then exit onto Commonwealth Avenue to Endicott and then to 95. On the right side is an aerial view of 95 on the right. That's the new exit 41. The road going east-west is Endicott Street, and then Commonwealth Ave is north-south. So the proposed bus routes in red and yellow are going to take the buses from 95 to Endicott and up to Commonwealth Avenue. The point of this slide is because we know that there's residential neighborhoods to the north of Liberty Tree Mall, and the buses will not be driving by or impacting the residential neighborhoods north of the mall. Next slide, please. So we have done, in collaboration with the town, a traffic impact assessment study. On the left, it's hard to see from back here in the room, but we did receive, thank you. We did receive 4 existing traffic data. The first one is from a private developer. The second and third one are actually from Mass DOT. And the fourth one, ironically, HNTB is working on a project on Endicott Street, so we had traffic volumes. And really, we just wanted to take this information and be able to see, how much volume are we increasing because of this new development. That'll be on the next slide. Josh, if you can pan out. On the right, these are just user traffic patterns using 114 Endicott Street and Commonwealth Avenue. We have proposed guide signs that we still have to coordinate with Mass DOT and the town on placement of those signs. but just wanted to show how users could access the proposed facility. Next slide, please. So what did the traffic study assessment turn out to confirm? So the peak hours on Endicott Street are actually between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., both in the weekday and the weekend. The maximum site trips generated, this is using the existing Peabody Danvers site, during a 1-hour period was 28 weekday trips and 13 weekend trips. We studied using Massport's data of ticketing, the average occupancy over a 16-month span. There was roughly around 213 users. And typically, April is the highest month where Massport is seeing users use the Logan Express at Peabody. And we think that this data would transfer over to Danvers. What the study kind of culminated was the trip generation provides less than 1% of additional volume on Endicott Street. So really not a significant amount of volume is added because of the location move from Peabody to Danvers. Next slide, please. And then lastly, we just wanted to show the origin and destination paths. We took this map and from the data from Massport, there's 5 municipalities that are really driving a lot of the usership. It's Peabody, Beverly, Danvers, Gloucester, and Salem. And again, using the information from Peabody, we think that a lot of the users that are using the Peabody site will again transfer over to the Danvers site. And so kind of just looking at the trip generation, less than 1% volume would be added to Endicott Street. And that's the end of the presentation. Now, if you have any questions.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Let's see, I will turn it over to the board, and then, as I mentioned at the outset of the meeting, we'll have questions from the board, but this is a public hearing, so after questions are from the board, then we'll turn it over to the public for any questions as well. Okay, but first, coming back to the board, and I do want to mention, I believe that staff has mentioned to the applicant, but we are 1 member short today, so in terms of any vote today would need to be, for favorable, would need to have a 3-person vote. They advise you of that, okay. Very good. So I'll turn things over now to my fellow board members. Any with questions? Jim?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. Can you show, is there going to be a sidewalk constructed between the larger parking lot and the smaller lot?
Yeah.
Is there one now, or is there going to be one constructed? Can you show it on the plan?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, right here. So along Commonwealth Avenue, there will be a sidewalk. It'll be a 7-foot wide sidewalk. And then on the right side,
I think it's
yeah,
better.
right there, yeah. Oh,
Yep. It's a cutoff. Yeah, it's like half and
yeah,
half.
it's a half and half. So you kind of can see the sidewalk along Commonwealth Avenue, and then to the right, where the parking ends and before the wetlands, there'll also,
Sorry, Jim. Sorry to interrupt. Jim, do you see my cursor?
Oh.
It's kind of hard. It's just there is like a 7 feet
It's a 7-foot sidewalk that
Okay.
that
extends
connect.
on Commonwealth Ave, and then it also goes up north.
So it'll be to be constructed,
Correct.
and it's on the same side throughout, all the way
It
down
extends-
Commonwealth, or are you gonna?
No, it extends to the ticketing gate where we have the curb cut. That's where it would end.
Okay. And I appreciate the light poles that went up relatively quickly, and that's through Simon. So I saw those improvements, and so that was good. And you're talking about proposed building versus actual. Is there going to be a difference in the building?
So we don't know that yet. Massport has qualifications for a request for qualifications for architectural services, and that is ongoing. I believe the selection process, yeah.
I'm Mike Gilmet, Assistant Director for Capital Programs at Massport. So we have to go through a state process for designer selection, and right now that's on the streets being advertised. Qualifications are being submitted within the next 2 weeks. I don't know the exact day. And then we put it in front of a design selection panel. So right now, HNTV put together a conceptual plan of
Okay.
what it might look like. But the architect probably won't be on board for about another 45 to 60 days. Then at that point, we'll go through a detailed design of the building.
Materials of the building will be what?
They're going to need to be durable materials. It wouldn't be EFS or anything like that. It'd be brick, metal panels, something along those lines. But just with the exposure and the type of use, we'd want something durable out there.
Are you
And,
coming back
obviously
for further
attractive.
review or subject to review by staff, or how we're going to close that loop?
I'd look to you for your, what the board would like to see. We'd be happy to work with the town.
So it's going to be built within the dimensions of what you're showing, or?
Correct. The footprint of it, what you see is correct sizing. HNTB helped us out with a study on it for the uses we need within the building. And so we're confident the size of the building will work fine, but we need to work out the details for the building itself. You know, the things you're talking about, siding, roof, appearance, lighting.
Do we leave that to the building inspector
Well,
and/or staff? Or do we need to come back for a further condition on that?
I don't think so. I don't think a further condition, if you'd like a condition that's not currently in the decision, that the, the applicant must submit, final building design to planning staff for review. If the board finds that appropriate, I think that might be beneficial.
I would think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's all I have at the moment.
okay. Very good. Dean?
So last time you guys were in front of us, a member of the public asked about additional parking for use of the public space in the police station. Have you thought about that at all?
So we have had discussions with the police, Massport, the police, and we've been coordinating with the planning staff. We would not be able to provide any parking within our facility. Part of that is how we're organized legally. Part of that is also the use of or FAA regulations on how we can use funds and our assets and so forth. So we would be unable to provide that as a benefit, but I understand that again, the police have been engaged, I believe, with planning staff on how that might be addressed in the future. We are certainly committed to working with the police to make sure that they have access through the facility to be able to maximize their ability to do their jobs.
Okay. I mean, if you are working with the town and the police station, that's good. Thanks.
Certainly.
Any further right now?
Nope.
Tim?
Could you talk a bit about the progress made on the lights? I've seen a sort of color-coded image here with lights that have been fixed, added, as well as phase one area proposed pavement improvement plan. I think hearing a bit more about the lighting and paving improvements would be helpful.
So as far as the lighting, we're installing all new lights for the parking lot. And then on certain lights, there would be security cameras.
Sorry, not for the
Yeah.
parking lot, for the Liberty Tree
Right.
area.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, sorry.
Josh, could you pull up
Commonwealth Avenue.
the?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up.
Perfect.
And I believe we have someone from Tim Fox maybe on.
Oh,
Line.
is he online?
I'm not sure if Tim's on.
Tim Fox is from Simon.
From Simon, yes. Is that,
If he can speak to that, that would be good.
I don't see him on here. I can speak a little bit to it. 'Cause I'm not seeing his name. What's it called? Let me go back. I'm sorry. Oh, here he is. Hold on. Hello, Tim. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Tim Fox with Simon Property Group. Sorry, I was on the YouTube channel, so I'm a little late arriving, but I've heard the comment. Yeah, so we provided, the update is that, I think as Mr. Sears had pointed out, there were light poles that have been replaced. There are 45 light poles that illuminate the private roads around the mall property, including Commonwealth Avenue. And 6 of the light poles are new, based on the meeting that we had in April, I believe. And since that time, 18 of the light ballasts that were problematic or inoperable have been replaced with LED lamps. So all the light poles are all functional throughout the property, and they're part of ongoing maintenance. So I think you'll see that some of those ballasts will be changed over time, but at this time all are operational.
I see. So on the screen here, the color coding was a bit, it wasn't labeled, but I think that's just indicating what you had said in terms of which ones had been replaced and which ones the lights had been fixed.
That's right. And it's a bit, so the green that are on the kind of the upper right, those are the new light poles. And the yellow indicates that the ballast was recently replaced.
Got it. And then for the pavement improvement plan, if you might pull that up, Josh. I'm seeing one sheet that's phase 1 area that points to the intersection of Commonwealth and Federal Street. Is there more than this?
Yes, so that's the area for phase 1 that we're targeting to have replaced this year. So we've engaged our paving consultant who did a survey of the property, had kind of identified this area as the area to target first. And we've worked with staff and to walk through our plan, and just to provide kind of a high-level schedule. We've engaged our paving consultant. He is providing us with design documents that we can bid out, and that will occur over the next, say, 6 weeks or so, with the expectation that phase 1 work would start late August, September timeframe.
So phase 1 does imply there are future phases, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, this is going to be a multi-step process over the course of several seasons. The paving can only take place in certain seasons, so we're going to maximize this focus on this area this season, and then we would focus on another area in phase 2.
Just on this topic, Tim, not to interrupt, there is a condition in the decision that references that we would be working with Simon on a semi-annual basis, reviewing paving and lighting on a semi-annual basis. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thanks for calling that out, Josh. I do think the last time we talked about the temp approval, we did say that for this meeting, we would want to see a pavement improvement plan, but this is pretty inadequate. This is a very small amount of pavement, especially even just considering the route of Commonwealth Ave of the buses. I mean, there's only so much you can do to repave a road. You can just repave the road. I don't know that you need a consultant to tell you to repave a road. So this does seem inadequate from what we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay, I disagree with that position. Paving a road isn't as simple as paving a road. We had to do assessments. We drilled cores in the road to assess the quality of the underlayment and to understand what scope of work would be required. That's how we identified this portion of the road as the most in need of attention. Paving isn't just putting down asphalt and walking away. This is a curb-to-curb replacement that will include the underlayment.
Fair, definitely point well taken. It's more complicated than my comment. I do think that if we did understand this to be a phased approach, if we did at least understand your commitment to what the next phases should cover, even if they're not very well established about what is the end goal? Because to Josh's point about continuing to meet, that's great. We just had a meeting earlier today where there was a condition for a certain behavior that hasn't happened, and we have very little ability to. It's a lot more difficult to enforce after the fact than to ask you to come to the table with a plan that we can actually approve that has a complete plan. So I do think some commitment that, you know, the road back there on Commonwealth behind AMC is pretty terrible, having driven by there recently. And sending buses down there is simply going to make it worse. So I appreciate your point that there's more to it than just laying down pavement, but some commitment to a complete plan, I think, is warranted here.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by complete plan.
I mean, nothing in the documents you've submitted say you will pave the entire road. You've committed to this one bit with a phased approach to be determined. And that doesn't give us any concrete information to understand, would that eventually lead to the entirety of Commonwealth Avenue up to the plot that we're at issue here, would be repaved? Like, we have no idea what else you're committing to besides what's on paper right here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our commitment is to pave the road where it's damaged and improve the road, and that's what we're planning on doing. Phase one indicating the first area which we would address, which we can do in the next few months. I think in the previous meeting we had talked about the patching that has occurred, and that's an ongoing process. I'm happy to go back with our team and identify what we feel would be included in a phase two and share that with staff, like we did with phase one.
Okay. I mean, I do see there's a condition in here about providing a paving road repair plan, and as Josh said, the semi-annual review of the maintenance. I just want to call attention to the fact that we conditioned a paving plan for this meeting. And so that's what I'm calling out, is that we're sort of given partial information here, and I would want to have a more clear set deadline of when's the full plan approved. What does semi-annual review actually mean? What enforcement is there?
Sure. I mean, I think where staff stands on this topic is that, similar to what is being presented tonight in this phase one, is that, once this is complete, when we meet with Simon on the semi-annual basis, like we did with this, we would say, work with Simon and Tim, what's phase two? What are the portions of the mall that need the most work? Tim, where's the lighting that's broken that needs to be replaced? And once we have those meetings, those decisions with planning staff and the engineering staff and Tim and his staff would kind of work, figure out the phase two, the phase three, the phase four. So that's where we set. That's from where I sit. That was how I viewed this happening. But
if I can add, this plan was created based on discussions with staff and engineering, and in fact modified based on that feedback. And we're happy to, our expectation is that that's how we would execute, the following phases.
Okay. Thanks. No other questions.
Okay. Mike, do you have any questions?
I just have a quick question. Looking at an existing map and then the future map, the lot's getting larger, right? The existing parking area, you guys are expanding it west, is that correct? I'm getting a head nod from Josh. So are any of the crosswalks going to need to be replaced or relocated based off of your new plan? That's my only question. Thanks.
So there's an existing crosswalk on Commonwealth Avenue, and that's being removed.
Removed and replaced, or just removed entirely?
Removed. That was in coordination with the town.
Okay. So there won't be a connection between your future building and the mall any longer, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Mike?
No.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I had just a few questions myself here, and so I guess in terms of with respect to traffic, and I know you were discussing earlier about Endicott Street and sort of movement on vehicles on Endicott Street. Do your studies include any other, an understanding? I understand the commitment, and I think it's a condition in terms that the buses will exclusively use Endicott Street. and avoid driving on smaller residential streets. But did the studies also include, people who are going to be driving to the Logan Express from other parts potentially of town, and how that would affect maybe other surrounding residential streets?
I believe in the traffic study, we considered the various origins where folks could come from, and certainly the routing, could be different depending upon where folks are coming from. I don't believe, and James, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we actually took the anticipated demand and assigned that to different routes, correct? Yeah. So I think our anticipation would be, since the majority, or at least a large plurality of the demand comes from east moving west, we would expect that would probably route similar to the way the buses would. But clearly, if someone's coming from a different part of Peabody or Danvers,
Right, if someone's coming from down near
Sylvan Street
McKinnon's or something like that, they're going to come on another.
most certain,
They'll
that's a possibility.
be driving another route, trying to race to get that bus.
Right. So, fair enough. And certainly, we would try to manage that as best we can with signage to make sure folks take the most desirable route as per the board and certainly Danvers Planning's direction.
Okay. Got it. So in terms of the, and I think we have that already in terms of, I think we did that in the temporary, rather the tentative plan with respect to, and I think this is in the current language of a decision to have a condition that will, a preferred route for users. Okay.
Most certainly, and I believe we submitted a signage plan?
Yeah,
or-
it's up here. It's up here.
Yep, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Just to ensure that people are, and also, I guess, just coming back in terms of, and I think this might have come up with some residents' concerns as well at the last time you were before us, with respect to the buses and, excessive idling and, honking of horns and that sort of thing at 5 a.m. How can you speak to that?
Certainly, I believe state law prohibits idling for more than 5 minutes. We rigorously enforce this with all of our bus operators, and we would continue to, press that case. Certainly, we have staff 24/7 as well, managing the parking facility, keeping an eye on the bus operation. But we understand the concern, and it's a concern of ours too.
Right, so bus drivers are not going to be blowing a 5-minute warning or something on the horn before they leave or
absolutely
anything
not.
like that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. With respect to, and I guess in the same way, there's a condition with respect to no outdoor audio, so there's not going to be any sort of paging or anything like that external in the area?
None.
Okay. And with respect to the, sort of as the point that, that Jim had raised earlier with respect to the building design itself, and so, in that, in terms of the building design, so I guess in terms of layout will be the same, height will be similar as well?
I believe so. Mike, do you want to address this?
Well, the height of the building, it would just be a single-story building.
It will be a single story?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
We don't have anything within there that would require ceiling heights more than, say 9 feet, something along those lines.
Got it. And so you all would be willing to, as I think was mentioned, you'd be willing to agree to a condition that you submit a final design of the building to staff for review and approval?
Sure. Would that come through the planning board, or who would that go through?
It would just go to how it's written or how we're discussing it. It would just go to staff.
Okay.
Right. So, and I also want to ask you too, in terms of the, in terms of any sort of comments from engineering. I know that there's been some back and forth with respect to our public works and engineering. Is there anything? It's my understanding that that final comments have come in. Is that correct?
That's correct. So there's one outstanding comment that we have to address on the plans. That was related to the sewer. There was a request to provide a profile of the sewer. And then there was also a request for the minimum slope of the sewer to be 2% or higher. And we agreed to that, and we will provide that in the updated plan set.
Okay, got it. And in terms of just final sort of steps you need to take, I think you're still going to, it's my understanding, you still have a trip to Conservation Commission?
That's correct.
Okay, got it. And what's that related to?
That's final. We did the site walk, I believe, last week, and then I think it's the 27th. Get final approval.
Okay, got it. Josh, is that something that we need to include in terms of as any sort of condition or no?
No, it's sort of implied that they need Concom approval before granting a building permit. So in this particular instance, it's not included.
Okay, got it. And in terms of the pavement and such, and light changes, I appreciate the work from that Simon has put in terms of to do that, but I do share a concern as well that Tim raised, just in terms of that we do have that there be a pretty robust review of maintenance and lighting. And so I guess a question I have, and this might be for Mr. Fox from Simon, and I know that you looked at phase one right now. I guess just in terms of how long would it, is it possible to do how long would it take to do a complete phase of what of pavement improvements? Or is that just something that has to be done sort of on a seasonal basis?
Yes, the work would take place on a seasonal basis as needed, so that we would, focus on the areas of most need. Our paving consultant performs a review of the entire property, and that's how we identified, this area, given the time constraints that we have. This was the area that we could execute on, in the next few months. We felt was in the highest need. We're happy to, like I said, mentioned earlier, we're happy to work with staff on, succeeding phases and identifying these areas and, coordinating, communicating when this work would take place.
Okay, got it. All right. Okay, thanks very much. That's all the questions that I have for right now. Unless, if you have before I turn it over to the public.
Just so you could, point of information for people who missed the last meeting, if you could just reiterate operationally how many buses in a 24-hour period, how many buses per hour, how many people on a bus?
All right. Thank you, Jim. Yeah.
Sure. I believe we have 42 buses per day, so 42 trips per day, so one in and one out every hour over the course of about 22 hours. It's staggered a bit, but for all intents and purposes, you have one bus coming in and one bus leaving per hour. In terms of ridership, do some quick math. We're doing about 13,000 riders per month right now. So,
how many people on the bus? 50?
No, probably closer to 10 to 15 on average.
That's it? Okay.
Right. So, I mean, we have 42 buses a day. We figure about 400 or 500 people a day, so call it about 10 on average, more or less.
So one coming in to pick up an hour?
Yeah.
Essentially?
Yes.
And one leaving?
Yes.
And, okay. I just wanted the public to understand how much traffic there would be.
Right.
Okay. That's it.
Any other questions before we turn it over? Okay, so now this is a public hearing, so any members of the public, they can come to the podium and ask a question or make a comment. Please direct it to through the chair, and please identify yourself and.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Patricia Fraser. I live at 18 Hyde Street, and I was here at the meeting that occurred in April. And Mr. Sears is correct. We've got one bus in, one bus out every hour, beginning at what time? What time does the first bus leave Danvers?
3:15.
At 3:15 a.m. And what time does the last bus arrive in Danvers? So that's basically 22 hours a day, every hour, there's a bus coming and going. I appreciate certainly what has been done to mitigate the impact, potential impact on the neighborhood with the buses entering and leaving on Endicott Street. I appreciate the signage. What was suggested the last time around is, and it was hard to look at that plan with the signage, and it looked like guide signs were marked on that plan. But I am also curious about what signage is going to be planned on the highway system outside the roads at Danvers, what directions are going to be posted on a website. While you can't do anything with people using a GPS, Waze, et cetera, certainly you can do something about the potential signage, highway signage, which I've noticed actually going up and down 128, how much signage there is, not only for Danvers, but also the South Shore. And so I'd be interested in knowing what is the plan for directional information on the website, and what is the plan for potential highway signage? Thank you.
The applicant, can you address that question, please?
Most certainly. Yeah, thank you for the thoughtful comments. We are engaged with MassDOT on the moving some of the existing signs. I think maybe there's just one or two that need to move, as well as adding additional directional signage on 128 and I believe 114 to ensure that we are directing people as per the board and planning's direction. So as far as the website, we, generally speaking, we provide information. We're working with Simon to establish a kind of an address specifically for this site, which would allow us to then someone to plug that into their phone and sort of route that. And certainly, we work with the Waze and the Googles anytime we establish a new facility to try and make sure that folks can navigate there.
Okay. Is that something, just picking up on Ms. Fraser's question in terms of, is that something that have you been working with or that you are willing to work with town staff on as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you be willing to include that as a condition, that sort of part of the condition that working with planning staff to determine a preferred route for users to Logan Express could perhaps say to include highway signage and directions via the via websites?
Absolutely. To the extent that we can control, obviously, third-party applications, we'll do our best. But certainly we'll work with the town. I'm happy to have that as a condition.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Okay. Any other public comments or questions? Yes, sir. You're at the podium.
Yes.
Oh.
Stanley Sleepoy, 5 Bradford Road. My first question is there a lease agreement for this parking area? And if so, what are the terms of the lease?
Okay. The applicant?
There is a lease agreement with Simon. I believe, and Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 40-year lease.
Did you say 40?
40, yes.
Okay.
And
Mr. Sleeper?
is that the full term? Are there options in there included in that 40-year lease?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't believe so.
So it's a straight 40-year lease with no stop periods in between. It's not like a 10 plus 10 plus 10. Could Simon possibly answer that question as well?
Okay, I'd like to ask that, see if the
Chair.
thank you very much. Mr. Fox from Simon, can you address the resident's question?
I'm not sure, is it necessary to address this? This is a lease between us and Massport.
No,
Well, Massport is a public authority, so I think it's subject to public scrutiny.
The resident has asked you the question, and so you may,
Is it publicly available?
is it publicly available? Diocese of Massport.
This lease is not published in the public realm,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Okay.
I'm not trying to dodge anything. I'm sorry to the board. You know, it's just generally we don't release, you know, lease information publicly. That's not something that we do.
Okay.
Then that begs the question, where you do not have a design for the building itself, having used the Massport over at the trailer in Peabody, it would certainly, you've mentioned possibly brick, possibly metal. If we're looking at a 40-year period, I would think the town of Danvers would want a structure that would be in good condition 40 years from now. And maybe we should wait until we have a better design for your request for qualifications and your design before the board approves this. It's certainly something that should last through the years. As an ancillary question, what I've originally wanted to come up, but with the evasiveness of the lease, the design of the structure, will it incorporate any alternative energy, such as solar panels?
Could you address this question? Mr. Sleeman, we do have, just as, you know, we have discussed about the possibility of including a condition that would require that they submit the final design plan to staff for review and approval, that being said. But go ahead, sir.
Building permit. Have to get a building permit.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
This board has an initiative to be net zero for carbon emissions by 2031. So yeah, this building would include provisions for energy conservation, resiliency, reduction of emissions. It could include solar, things of that nature. All of our new structures do. So I think those considerations will all be taken into account. I think at the last meeting, we also talked about the buses. We're looking at converting our fleets to alternative fuel sources. You know, maybe a progressive change. However, we're doing that both at Logan Airport and at our remote facilities.
Okay. So just and obviously as well, I mean, the building would need to be approved by the, you know, would have to go through the building permitting process and such too when it comes to materials. But in terms of the provision of alternative, you know, reduction of emissions to include solar, is that something that you'd be willing to include as a condition?
I'd like to propose, if we could work with the board. I don't have a designer on board right now.
Sure.
I'd hate to commit to, you know, one specific approach.
Sure.
But like I said, we have initiative to be net zero by 2031. This is a big initiative for Massport. I mean, even on the Logan campus, significant investment in this. So this building would be no exception.
Okay. Well, I think we can include, though, I think within the, Josh, I think within the language, if we had a final design approval by staff, I think that could include all aspects of final design.
Sure.
We'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
I think the town will be pleased with the final design.
Okay. Very good. I think I saw a woman who had her hand raised for a follow-up, for another question. Oh. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. Just please identify yourself and.
I'm Christine Saunders of Burley Street, 57. I'm Christine Saunders, Burley Street, number 57. I would like to know if there's going to be some kind of, like, the congestion around the mall and Endicott Street, and then you go to Peabody, and where that stems onto 128, it's hard to merge onto that location. Like, as you come 114 all the way down to 128, you're heading toward Peabody Square. Now, to merge right in on those, and those are already going to be congested with traffic. So Endicott Street is congested all around. There's like satellite road all around, and yet it all connects. So the hours are is it gonna be lighter when the kids go to school, like the traffic congestion? Is it gonna be 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. to 7, and then it's gonna lighten up? it seems like there's like no schedules, because the flights are taking off all day long, you know? And the more you have a problem on 128, then the more you are gonna have a problem with everybody going that way, you know, to head to Boston. You
Okay.
can go Route 1, but then that pulls the traffic all the way out to the road of Route 1 and 114. I've had to do that myself to head toward Wakefield. So I'm kind of like a commuter myself. But I see the traffic changes. But then if there's anything wrong, like there was last week at Peabody, beyond North Shore Mall, we could not go down 128. They stopped the traffic. There was something wrong. You know, a lot of police was involved. A lot of our police were there. And we saw a lot of cars, sheriff's department, something on 128. So in order to have something congestive-wise, the school kids and just general transport and moving around the malls.
Great.
I mean, you know, and then something would be pod lighting as far as being something energy saving. I worked for Sylvania for a long time, and they have like the lighting, they light different areas, they even light underwater.
So Ms. Saunders, just so I have it straight, so you're concerned, just so I get it, you know, you're concerned in terms of sort of traffic, potential increase in traffic, and then you had a question about lighting as well?
Right.
Okay. Is it all right if I ask the applicant just to address I think they addressed it in traffic, but I just wanted to see if there might be some unanswered questions here. So could you address sort of her concerns in terms of traffic?
Sure. Kind of at a global level, this is part of a strategy to reduce the amount of congestion in many ways, heading from 128 to 95 Route 1 into Boston. You know, part of our goal is to be able to have folks come park remotely and not contribute to further congestion, you know, down the line closer to the inner core of the metropolitan region. So that's the overarching strategy. As far as local congestion, again, we'd point out that our peaks are going to be 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, typically not at the same time as you know, commuting traffic. And you know, I was just speaking with Mike again. The nature of our traveler, they're going to be parking for multiple days in many cases. So as far as the lighting, I don't know if I've addressed your question, but hopefully I've at least attempted to do so. Maybe Mike or James could talk about the lighting.
You're it.
So with regard to lighting, we've done the photometric plans and studies. We're going to use, you know, low energy lighting. We do light our parking lots, well, the Logan Express lots, 24/7. We do need security out there. We've done photometric studies to make sure we're not going to have flood, you know, light spill over on the adjacent properties. We're happy to share that. I think we may have already with the town, but if we haven't, we're happy to do that. Definitely sensitive to that as well. As far as some lots in other locations, they have the ability for lights to come on and off depending on activity. We don't do that because of safety issues on the property. That's why we have continual monitoring. We have 24-hour personnel on site for that reason.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Bradstreet? Sorry, I didn't see.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Not so much questions, but statements. One was, why wasn't this project slated for the front of the mall adjacent to Endicott Street, which will be used to get to 128 to get to Boston? That's one question. The LTM is easy to locate, unlike the comment that was made in a prior meeting that it was difficult to locate the Route 1 South spot. And another one, which is, if this project is approved, I would rather see a continued review, which I think was mentioned, not an annual, not a semi-annual review, something a little more closely watched It's a large project, and the town should be very interested in keeping an eye or eyes on what is happening. I know it's an asset to Logan. We want it to be, I guess, an asset to Danvers. I don't know. That's to be found out in the future, but I did have those questions. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure, just first of all, turning to one of your questions, I'll ask the applicant to respond, but I think in terms of the pavement and lighting, I think that's called for, and the condition would be a semi-annual review, which would be, so multiple times a year. Okay, but can you address the other question, I guess, in terms of location?
Yes, this is Tim Fox from Simon. I'm happy to address that question on location. You know, we had, we've had a successful partnership with Massport at North Shore Mall, and I think it was mentioned previously that location will be the site of a hotel development, and that necessitated the search for a new location. And I believe Massport, did an exhaustive search on potential areas, at least as it concerns the mall. This was the only portion of the mall where we could identify the quantity of parking that Massport needed for their service, and that weren't otherwise allocated either to mall shoppers or subject to protections of the existing leases. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Anything further to add?
No.
Okay. Representative Kearns?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the members of the board. Thank you to my colleagues in state government, quasi-state government. I am hoping that we can continue along the lines of the questions that were raised at our first discussion on this by our very capable town moderator regarding community give back, might be the right, was that the term that you used, Pat? It was assurances of community cooperation that Massport extends to several communities where you have a presence. And I was sort of hoping that the board might entertain conditions that would stipulate that Massport or Simon Corporation, for example, will contribute to the town's affordable housing trust, or our climate resiliency fund that I don't know that we've created yet, but perhaps we could. I'm also hoping that Mr. Fox, that perhaps Simon would entertain upgrades to the mall parking lot akin to what has happened at North Shore over the past few years, in concert with the Massport Logan Express operation. The parking lot up at North Shore Mall is terrific. I have a creaky axle on my Subaru that I swear it's from going over to Nordstrom Rack too many times, and the road is just atrocious. And I'm wondering, does the board have the ability to say, well, gee, Mr. Fox or Simon or Massport, someone needs to make this road passable. And then my bigger concern has to do with the building. We live in a town, however it has happened over time, our town has too many blah boxes dotting our roads and our byways. Here is an opportunity. The town has an opportunity to say, you know what? We're looking for something a little bit more in keeping with the style of an average middle class community, or a community with some rich history. Good heavens, look at the police station. There's a reason it was designed that way. So perhaps this is the opportunity as a condition. I'm hoping that the board will, I'm not satisfied with, well, the staff will work it out. No knock on the staff, none at all. I don't even know you. But I feel that a building that we will have to live with and look at in this town for many, many years to come deserves closer examination, and along with that, ways of being climate friendly. And then my last question is, when I am standing at the, if I've come out of Marshall's and I'm looking at the back of the police station, you're going to take up that whole area, and there will be more parking out towards the road, yes? And there'll be a 7-foot wide sidewalk. Sorry, I'm directing it to you.
Mm-hmm. And I
The
see
si-
them nodded, so.
The sidewalk will end, and you're removing a crosswalk. And I'm just wondering, why would they remove a crosswalk when it's
Okay.
so pedestrian, not friendly
Okay.
on the roads to Liberty Tree Mall, inside the mall? Thank you.
Yeah, sure, thank you. And why don't I have them, I ask them to address it. First of all, just with respect to the, in terms of asking the applicant to, contribute to the housing trust and such, I mean, that's something that's outside of our purview in terms of requiring that as a condition. And so I just wanted to point that out in terms of in terms of the paving and the area. I mean, that's something we expressed a concern with, and I think that, and ensuring that there is I think a semi-annual review of the roadway maintenance about all, and this covers all of the roads, Liberty Tree Mall Road, Commonwealth Avenue, and Constitution Lane. So I think that is sufficient. But I do want to ask, in terms of questions with respect to sort of the circulation and and in terms of elimination of the crosswalk, if you can speak to that.
My understanding of the removal of the crosswalk is that, and I may be mistaken, and maybe Josh can answer this, is that it came from the town. Massport has no problem leaving the crosswalk in. So honestly, I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
But
Josh, do we know what in terms of the loss of the crosswalk?
I guess if someone could refer to me which crosswalk is the one that is being removed?
Right in front of the building.
It does stand to reason that everyone doing something on one side of the road isn't going to be doing what the people on the other side of the road are doing. Like if you're going to Massport, you're parking getting on the bus. If you're going to the mall, you're parking going to the mall. So there wouldn't really be a need to cross. Just guessing, speculating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the
Oh, okay.
sidewalk goes all the
So
way
it's right across with the proposed building?
I thought so, but Jim's now saying it's
It's
the other one,
the
so
one on
they should
the-
confirm.
There's one further down.
Yeah. Like by where the bus is currently parked.
James, if you could just go to the mic, I'm sorry. It's just I couldn't hear you.
There's an existing crosswalk where we're proposing
Sidewalk
the
here.
entrance and exit gate.
Yes.
Right.
And also where the police entrance and exit gate is. So, yeah, you can see it's right there, it's faded.
Okay.
As Mike said, if that is a concern, we can certainly put it back in, but to Tim's point, users of the Massport facility are parking in the Massport facility, and then the crosswalk currently goes to nowhere, so there are safety concerns, and it was a discussion to remove it.
Okay. Got it. So it sort of looking at sort of an attractive nuisance, that sort of thing, or not nuisance, but just, could you explain?
Where it is right now is at the revenue control gates. So if it were going to go in at all, I'd want to shift
I see.
from that location. But if that's a request, we can certainly put it in. It'd be a discussion with Simon as well with where they'd feel it'd be appropriate.
Okay. Good. Okay. Other questions? I think, Mike Shannon?
Mike
Identify yourself.
Shannon, Mass Ave, Precinct 5, Town Meeting Member. To the chair, to the petitioners, or directly to the chair, I was very saddened to hear that the crosswalk was going to be removed, and I was happy because it was back in, then it was taken out, and I was sad, and I'm happy it's back in, and now it's a possibility. But I think we need to have a crosswalk there. I don't think these two entities exist in silos. I could see somebody showing up for a trip like myself,
Yep.
and I do use the Logan Express, going over to Five Below, getting my travel snacks, getting something to read, and walking back over. I also believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that someone could take public transportation to the mall and then walk through the mall
They can.
and access this, feature. So I think it would be prudent to have a functioning crosswalk there. And also, I might want to say that River Run Townhomes are not that far away. Someone could actually want to walk from there. And so they should put I would like to see a crosswalk up that way as well. Keeping people safe, using it, I think it's a win-win. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just taking a look here. Jean, so is there an area where we could where a crosswalk could be added?
So looking at the existing site, could you add, it looks like there is a small sidewalk that goes from the crosswalk to where the curb cut is. Could you include that little section of sidewalk?
Massport would be happy to provide a sidewalk. However, we're talking about Simon's roadway. So I directed to Tim Fox if he'd be amenable to that. And
Yeah, we're happy to coordinate the sidewalk. We have no issue.
Okay,
Great.
great. So we have a sidewalk.
the only thing I'd mention is all in for the sidewalk. We'll have our engineers just look at it to make sure we're putting it at a safe location. You know, we're not near a curb cut or right on a curb
So,
or
yeah.
something along those.
We could add a
that
condition
nature.
in there that to provide an additional sidewalk, and ensure that it's in a proper location, et cetera. you know.
Great.
Just while we're on,
And just to clarify, you're
Yes.
talking about crosswalk, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, yeah. I mean, we coordinate that with Massport, and we have no issues with that whatsoever. I think it's a good idea.
okay.
so maybe we could include a condition where planning staff works with Massport and Simon for an appropriate location placement of a crosswalk. Is that what we're all agreeing to?
That would be fine.
Okay.
Yep. Great.
Okay.
Okay. Any other further questions from members of the public? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Joanne Maguchi, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. I have a couple of questions, and I apologize if this was mentioned at the last meeting. I was not there. Where are the buses going to be fueled?
Okay. Applicant, could you address that question?
Yeah, generally speaking, the buses are fueled by the bus operators. The current operator, I believe, fuels their buses in Lynn.
So the second part to that, for any emergencies or anything like that, is there any fuel going to be stored at the facility in Danvers?
Okay.
There's no plan for, right now, the buses, the legacy buses are diesel-powered buses. There's no plan to store diesel fuel. Obviously, long-term, we are looking at zero-emission type vehicles, so we would have to consider the type of infrastructure to power those vehicles.
Just because it may come up as a condition. There may be, a small gas can in the shed we have to maintain the lot, right? So we can't just have a open condition of no fuel at all.
Yes, sir.
Right?
So I assume in the future, once you're going to zero emissions, there could be charging stations maybe installed at?
If electric vehicles were the selected propulsion technology, potentially, yes.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong as well, in terms of the site plan itself turning into fuel storage, there's no indication on the site plan of any sort of fuel storage at all? Right.
So it'd be a modification if they.
So you'd have to, in order, if you did it, if ultimately you all needed to have fuel storage, you need to come back for a modification of the site plan? Yes,
By fuel storage, you mean for the buses?
right.
Correct.
Would modification include if there were charging stations installed as well?
That would probably,
Any modification of the plan.
yeah, any modification of the plan. Thank you,
Okay.
Jim.
My second question is there a designated pickup drop-off area? I know it, and to make sure that there's safe crosswalks for that. I think Tim mentioned, people are going to be parking and then getting right on the bus. And one of the issues I noticed personally in Peabody when I was using the Logan Express was that there wasn't a great area for drop-off and pickup, and I had to run across the street. There was no crosswalk into, a satellite parking lot, in the middle of traffic and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that where the pickup and drop-off area is, it can get busy, it can get congested, some people might be waiting in the mall parking lot, that there are good crosswalks for those people to cross over to get their ride, or if they're dropped off there, to then get into the parking lot and get on the bus. So that's one of my points as well.
Can I just ask the applicant about that? I believe I may have even asked that at the earlier meeting with respect to like rideshare drop-offs, Uber, Lyft drop-offs. So could you speak to that?
So the plan right there, in the bottom is the short-term parking lot. It's approximately holds 20 vehicles, and then you can also see the crosswalk that cuts through, connecting both sides. So guests can walk on the crosswalk, and then they would be underneath the canopy that showed in the concept.
So that's if someone's spouse drops them off, or Lyft or Uber, they can go in without having to
Yeah,
pay
so
a day parking fee and just be able to drop off and turn around.
That's correct, and it functions counterclockwise.
Okay, got it.
The other comment that was mentioned is in Peabody, the question referred to having to cross the street, had to park across the street. That was intended to be a temporary facility.
So I just wanted to make sure that this.
Right. This lot is properly sized so that we don't have that type of
Sure.
condition anymore.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, thank you. I knew it was temporary, and so that's why I wanted to kind of make sure. Just wanted to add a comment. I wanted to thank Massport for being in the planning board, being really sensitive to our neighborhood that is going to be about this. I like the idea of the light screens and the noise reduction, and being very, very sensitive to your neighbors, your new neighbors. We like to keep the quietness and the sanctity of our little precinct too there in the Highlands quiet at night. So I thank you all for your hard work and everyone to make sure that that continues. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Any further questions before we come back to the board? Okay.
Lou, there was just one public comment online,
Sure.
at least that I saw. I'll just read out loud for
Chief,
the
please,
group.
you can read out loud.
Yep. Has there been a study done with an
Do we
estimate?
have the individual who made the comment?
The name is Kelly.
Okay.
Has there been a study done with an estimated impact to the residential area from the commuters arriving via Purchase, Ash Street to Constitution Street to Commonwealth Ave? There is currently only a flashing yellow light at Ash and Constitution.
Okay. I think that's been addressed already, but if you can just,
Just to reiterate, we expect that the majority, or at least the plurality of traffic would be coming from I-95
Okay.
onto Endicott Street.
very good.
Just one other comment from Kelly, quote, "I am also concerned with Simon's commitment becoming realized as far as maintenance goes for roads and lighting."
Okay, that's a comment. Okay, very good.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Route 128, not 95 at that point.
Okay.
My apologies.
Great, thank you. All right, very good. I don't see any further public comments. I'm going to turn it back to the members of the board. Anything further, Jim?
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to close the public hearing. It's been seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, so now we have the motion itself. So can you read the decision as a motion?
That would be Jean gets the fun job tonight.
Yes.
So-
Gina, remember, we do have some conditions as well.
I think I got them all.
Okay.
This is for the site plan review for 100 Independence Way, Liberty Tree Mall Date of application, May 10th, 2024. Date of hearing, June 11th, 2024. Date of decision, June 11th, 2024. The Danvers Planning Board finds the site plan submitted by the Massachusetts Port Authority, Massport, for property at 100 Independence Way, Assessors Map 63, Lot 4, to be in substantial compliance with the criteria and regulations adopted by the town. Details of the plan review can be found on the following plans. Danvers Logan Express Massport property, Danvers, Massachusetts, MPA project number L1830, prepared by HNTB Corporation, dated May 8th, 2024, revised to June 11th, 2024, consisting of 38 sheets. Supporting materials include bus routes plan dated May 14th, 2024, signage and wayfinding aerial dated June 7th, 2024, Danvers Logan Express accessory building draft program prepared by HNTB Corporation dated April 1st, 2024, traffic impact assessment memo prepared by HNTB Corporation dated May 28th, 2024, stormwater management report prepared by HNTB dated May 3rd, 2024, revised to June 5th, 2024. The following submission requirements have been waived. Section 4.3.2 Site Analysis Plan. The site analysis plan is entitled to the topographic survey part of Liberty Tree Mall existing conditions plan. 2. Section 4.3.3 Dimensional Regulations Plan. No dimensional regulations plan submitted. The information is shown on the site and landscaping plans, sheet C6 through C10. 3. Section 4.3.4, Site Construction Plan. The site construction plan is entitled the Site and Landscaping Plans, sheets C6 through C10. The existing contours are shown, the topographic survey part of the Liberty Tree Mall existing conditions plan. The proposed contours are shown on the site grading and drainage plan, sheets C11 through C14. 4, Section 4.3.6, Utilities Plan. The profile of water and stormwater utilities is not shown on the plan. The proposed stormwater system is also shown on the site grading and drainage plan, sheets C11 through C14. 5, Section 4.3.7, Landscape Plan. The landscape plan is not prepared by a registered landscape architect. The existing grades are shown on the topographic survey part of Liberty Tree Mall existing conditions plan. The proposed grades are shown on the site grading and drainage plan, sheets C11 through C14. A plan and plant schedule of plants is not shown on the plan. The method of protecting plant material during construction is shown on the site details, sheet C22. 6, Section 4.3.8, Off-Street Parking and Loading Plan. The off-street and loading plan is entitled the Site and Landscaping Plans, sheet C6 through C10. The construction details and type of materials for surface paving, drainage facilities, curbing, and trees are shown on the site details, C19 through C22. Drainage details, C23 through C25, and utility details, C26 through C27. Conditions of approval. The project is subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to issuance of a building permit, this site plan decision shall be recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds. 2, this decision is specifically for the final phase condition as Logan Express relocates to this property. 3, the applicant will meet with town staff at a minimum 4 times a year to ensure that Logan Express is operating effectively, and an opportunity to resolve any issues. 4, the property owner shall provide a paving/road repair plan for Independence Way, Liberty Tree Mall Road, Commonwealth Ave, and Constitution Lane, private ways within Liberty Tree Mall property. This will include a semi-annual review of roadway maintenance and lighting to be reviewed and approved by town staff. The applicant will ensure 5, the applicant will ensure that Logan Express buses will exclusively use Endicott Street and avoid driving on smaller residential streets, such as but not limited to Adams Street, Ash Street, Abington Road, and Purchase Street. 6, the applicant will work with planning staff to determine a preferred route for users of the Logan Express. 7,
Are we adding a condition there with respect to 128, with respect to highway signage?
Yeah, sorry.
I think we were using language there that said to include highway access and.
Should we say highway signage and something with the
Highway signage and internet
directions.
the applicant will work with planning staff to include a preferred travel route to the facility. Or is that different?
Yeah, that's it. We were just adding to it, I think. We were adding like a new phrase to that sentence,
We're
right?
adding a new phrase
Right.
to
Okay.
condition 6, which would be to include highway access and
Or we say, or highway signage
highway signage, rather. So
Sorry.
include highway signage
and in internet directions.
internet directions.
Right. Very good.
7, outdoor audio is prohibited at this site. 8, the applicant will satisfy all comments in the Danvers Engineering Division memorandum dated June 11th, 2024. 9, if there are any changes to the approved plans, the use or the conditions on premises, planning staff will review. If deemed a major change by staff, the applicant will have to apply for a new application for site plan review.
And you have the
10,
additional.
yeah.
Yeah.
The 10, the applicant will submit all aspects of final design for the building to planning staff for review
And approval.
and approval.
Sure.
11, the applicant will work with planning staff to include a preferred travel route to the, oh, we have that.
For that one, I wrote the applicant, Simon, and town staff will work together for the placement of a crosswalk to the Logan Express facility from the Liberty Tree Mall. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're good. Cool.
General conditions.
This project is subject to the attached list of general conditions. Any approval of this site plan review shall lapse within 3 years from the grant thereof if construction has not begun by such date. News George, Chair.
Okay, very good. It's been moved by Jean. Is there a second on?
Second.
Second by Jim. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. It's passed. Good luck. Good luck. Okay. All right, a little stretch here. All right. You good? To continue? Okay. Good. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next public hearing. Next public hearing is 191 Old Burley Street, Beverly Airport. Request for site plan review pursuant to Section 4 of the zoning bylaw submitted by Flight Level Aviation for property in the Civic Space Institutional Space Uses, CS Inst zoning district. The applicant proposes to construct a 39,900 plus or minus square foot storage hangar for airplanes and associated site modifications. Assessors map 22, lot 155. Before we begin, I just did want to make as chair, I did want to just make a note, just as a preliminary matter, in terms of this site plan review. And this is just I'm just reading from a memo that I received from town staff, Brian Zakelli, our Danvers Planning Director, with respect to the site plan review and sort of the parameters of site plan review for this site. And that the town has determined that a site plan review is required for the proposed project per Section 4 of the town's zoning bylaw. However, because the airport is a use considered exempt from local zoning rules, the planning board can't cover all the typical items that site plan review is used to confirm. While there are limitations, this exemption is rooted in Section 3 of the Zoning Enabling Act and Chapter 90, Section 39B, Paragraph 5. What can be reviewed is that the project conforms to the general dimensional standards of the zoning district. The board should review the project as it relates to landscaping, minimize tree and soil removal while ensuring proper screening, building site. The proposed building is integrated into the nearby built environment. Circulation. The proposed project provides adequate parking and access. Stormwater and drainage. The proposed project provides proper site stormwater drainage. Understanding the historical context of past airport projects in the town is essential. Due to the airport's exemption from local zoning rules, the planning board's authority has been limited, and past airport projects have received minimal to zero reviews. The Conservation Commission is typically the only local board involved. This is despite the City of Beverly's practice of bringing in east side projects, and at least one case even requiring a special permit. Despite these limitations, Danvers staff believes that holding public hearings, even with restricted purview, is appropriate. The project proponents should explain to the public the purpose of their project and how it meets the relevant criteria. While the board has limited authority over what it can consider in its review, it's crucial to recognize the significant role of the public in the process. Public input is highly valued and can influence the scope, content, and potential alternatives the proponent may explore to secure approval. However, the number of aircraft coming in and out of the airport is not a criteria that can be factored into a site plan review decision at the local level, and not even the Airport Commission has the right to limit the number of aircraft entering the airspace. Please note that the applicant need not answer questions related to non-jurisdictional issues that the public may raise, and the board may not consider these in its review, but it does provide an opportunity for the project proponent to better explain their proposal and receive feedback on it that may improve it. So with that, I wanted to turn things over to the applicant to explain the project and to explain the project. Then, as we've done before with other public hearings, we will, once the applicant has presented, the members of the board will ask questions. Members of the public will then have an opportunity to ask questions as well. I do ask that that your questions be as succinct and to the point as possible, and avoid being repetitive. And again, questions should be addressed through the chair. And I will now, and just so the applicant is as it relates to, I think that's all I have to add right now. I'll add something else before we go into public comment. So applicant, if you can please identify yourself, and then you may present.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and other board members. Thank you for taking the time to be here this evening. For some of the people in the room, including myself, this is getting close to my bedtime, so I'm going to do my best to stay awake and try to be helpful in answering any questions that may arise. My name is Bob Lawrence. I represent Flight Level Aviation. I'm a mechanical engineer. I also happen to be a commercial pilot, flight instructor, and I'm with the FAA as a safety representative. I've been a pilot for over 50 years, so all the gray hairs have some stories to tell. So I put together an agenda, maybe to your point, Mr. Chairman, about some information, perhaps misinformation that's been out there, and I've heard bits and pieces of. I perhaps may hear some more tonight, but try to address some of those items and hopefully provide answers. So I would like to give a project overview tonight. I'd like to talk about the project team. Many of those are in the room with us tonight. You mentioned stormwater, and we're going to touch on that. Also, something that we are offering to the town as an extension of our trying to be a good neighbor, and also visual, any concerns that people may have about the hangar. You did mention noise, but we will try to shed some light on that. And then lastly, extend an invite to anybody in the audience and the board who may be interested in seeing the site. And then any questions that may arise. The next slide is a brief description of the project. It's about 3 acres in size. It's located on the west side of Beverly Airport, and it's tough to see in that photo up on the screen, but it is represented as a small orange dot. And we'll get a little more granular later on when we talk about this. The size of the hangar is about 296 feet long, 135 feet wide, with a peak height of around 44 feet. Overall, about 39,000 square feet and 960, but less than 40,000 square feet. Think of it as a big garage with a door on each end, that one aircraft comes in the south side, another aircraft can come in and exit on the north side. 2 jet aircraft, that's the intent of this. Simply a large garage. It has bifold overhead doors on each end, allowing planes to come and go from either side. It has a slight lean-to on the outside of the building for an exterior fire pump room for the fire protection system. Also has a restroom in there. And then some asphalt tarmac areas to allow the planes to get in and out on the north and the south side. Quite a bit of work has gone into the hydrology to come up with mitigation measures to, in terms of detention areas and such, and we'll get into that. There are 2 existing above ground fuel tanks that we will be relocating, getting those further away from the wetlands. And it's one big building. They'll be constructed in one phase, ideally starting this summer and finishing up spring of next year. The next slide gives you an idea what the building concept looks like, some section views. You can see the two side views, the east side and the west side. Pretty simple. And then the north and the south side with a silhouette of the jet inside each end. So that's the scale of these. They're quite large. And again, they're two.
Oops, can't see it. Yeah, is there a way someone can just move the screen there so that,
You can sit over here where I was sitting, sir.
we're doing a little bit of movement here, but don't move it too much. Yeah, because then we can't see it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's, you can see a door on each end and the silhouette of one airplane in each end, so it houses two aircraft. I mentioned some of the team members that we have here tonight. The next slide, some of the key players are flight level, of course, which will be the aircraft hangar owner, who I'm associated with, Hayes Engineering. They've done our civil engineering, land survey, and environmental work. They're here in the audience tonight, and also Connolly Brothers, who's our construction manager. So if there's any specific questions that I may not be able to answer, we have them as a resource tonight. The next slide shows just a recap of the first page of the site plan review. It's quite extensive. 132 pages, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a lot, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but it has gone before the town. Again, a little closer view up of the airport, and right, if I can point, it doesn't show up on that screen. Oh, well, it doesn't work. But anyway.
I saw it.
Did you?
Yeah, the pointer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe just.
It's
browse.
faint, or when you go over to the left a little bit, you could see the red, but maybe, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's the hangar right there. And that white area, that's the 2.9 acres that we're talking about. The next, this is, again, out of the site plan. It's important to notice these are existing conditions. There are wetlands there. The work will commence in the top half of that section that you see. There is no environmental impact presented by the project. We're not cutting any trees down. We're not increasing any runoff, or we're not impacting the wetlands. And in fact, I'll show you some details that show how we're actually making improving the storm events. And the next slide shows the project itself. And again, it's very busy drawing, but there's a lot of information here. Let's see if I can point again. The hangar is, oh, good. Thank you, Josh. The hangar is in the middle. It doesn't, right there. The taxiway, looks like a road. That's taxiway Bravo. That runs north and south. That's an active taxiway. And then the building operation is on the lower right-hand side. Those are other existing hangars and such. And then the very bottom, that's where the new fuel tanks are going to be located, relocated. So that, again, it's no change to the amount of fuel on site. It's just simply getting it further away in a more benign area up against the parking lot. The parking, mentioned parking, you can see all the parking places that are shown down below. Ample parking for two jets that come in. That is not a problem. We're also introducing a few parking spots next to the hangar. You can see, I think, about 4 of those, 4 or 5 of those right there next to that lean-to portion of the building. So we're improving the parking situation also. And the next slide is extracted from the stormwater management plan. The stormwater management plan was filed and was given to the Conservation Commission. The town engineer reviewed it and sent it out. The town sent it out to an independent consultant, Ty and Bond Engineering. They did a peer review on it, came back with some suggestions and changes that we implemented into the plan. We received notification that, from the town engineer, that we have met, and the town has agreed with our design, that, in fact, I said earlier that we're improving the conditions. And Josh, if you could blow that up a little bit, because this is pretty important. The numbers at the bottom, so these are peak rates and volumes. And this is tributary to the wetlands. In other words, we're building a hangar, we're putting some asphalt down, which is currently just grass. So that runoff has to be dealt with. If you take the existing conditions and you have these storm events, a 2-year, a 10-year, a 25-year, and a 100-year, just like we do when you watch the Weather Channel, a 2-year, 24-hour event is alleged to be 3.23 inches. In that perimeter that we're talking about, round up to 3 acres, existing, the number that you see in the first column, existing conditions, 3.23 cubic feet per second are discharged into the wetlands for a net volume of almost 13,000 cubic feet. The proposed conditions that we've designed, because of the retention areas that are within the space of the hangar footprint, or next to the footprint, the 3.23 cubic feet per second has been cut it by a third. It's down to about 1 cubic feet. Similar, the 13,000 cubic feet, and I'm rounding up, has been cut in half to 6,500 cubic feet under the conditions, proposed conditions. So we are reducing existing peak rates and peak volumes by the design that we're going to be building. And the same carries through if you look at a 10-year event, a 25-year event, and a 100-year event. They are all decreasing.
This is not time for members of the public to comment. No. Well,
Yeah,
it's, right, we're not at the point of asking public questions.
But let me see if I can do a better job. So if this is the storm water that during a rain event, so let's stay with the 2-year, 24-hour period, and you get 3¼ inches worth of rain, and it falls in this in the existing grass. But now we put a building there and we put some asphalt down. We don't want that just running into the wetlands. I'll look at you. We don't want that running into the wetlands. So what we've done is on the east side and the west side is constructed retention basins. And this is what Ty and Bond, an independent consultant, has reviewed, came back with comments, we made revisions. We did this in concert with Stephen King, the town engineer, working with Josh Morris and his guidance, and Brian Zielinski. Collectively, and Ty and Bond, again, this is completely independent, sponsored, picked out by the town. We did not pick them out. And came back with, so the new design, that same amount of rain is going to be held in retention, discharged at a slow rate over time, at a rate 1/3 the amount that if it would just simply rain without the building and the asphalt there and go into the wetlands. So we've decreased it by 1/3, validated by professional engineers. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, I can try to answer better later on. So that's really important. Now, Josh, if you could go to the next slide, please. It was brought to our attention, some photos and a video were shared by the town with us. And it shows some photos during a rain event, a significant one, and the water was not going into the catch basins. And it was evident by looking at the photos and the video that the reason it wasn't going in there is because they were plugged up. And I believe the town perhaps may know of and recognize that. So what we are offering to do is, and we've submitted this just as a proposal, this is off-site. This is not on the airport property. This is on Old Burley Street, is to inspect the catch basins, and we've identified, and it's, Josh, if you could blow that up a little bit, please. There is a map, a photo on the right, and all those little black boxes represent existing catch basins. So there's a record of every catch basin out there and culvert, and each one has been numbered. And then if you look to the left, if you could please scroll over, there's a table set up, a matrix. And that is going to be the inspection log that'll be kept. So Flight Level is offering to do this for a period of 5 years, and every 4 months, we will go out there, particularly at the end of foliage season and snowplow season, and look for any water backups, any debris blockages, or any structural failures. I believe we saw one culvert that might have collapsed. And then we'll report that to the town. We'll provide that log and photos and report it to the town of Danvers. Again, this isn't in our wheelhouse, but it's just trying to be a good neighbor with the business that Flight Level offers at Beverly Airport. I'll go on to the next photo slide, please. Another item that we heard about was I recall hearing something about that everybody was going to have to look at the hangar from their living room couch or something like that. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong. So what we wanted to do was to see if that was true or if it was perhaps not the case. So we approached it from two ways. We went along Old Burley Street, and each of the homes are identified on the left, and photos, a whole collage of photos, and I didn't put them all in here because it's a lot of photos, a lot of pages. But it looks from the street with the house behind you towards the runway, towards the hangar. And every time you go to another house, the hangar, of course, is always fixed. So all those photos look, and some of the photos are taken during with full foliage and some without any. Either situation, you do not see the hangar. We approached it from the other direction, looking the opposite way. And Josh, if you could go to the next slide, please. So there, with the airport's permission, we got a big bucket truck, went out on taxiway Bravo, and boomed the truck up in the air to an equivalent height of the peak of the building, and then zoomed around, as you can see the 180-degree shots, from north to south, or if you look to the left, that's south, and then it goes to the north. And as you see in the bottom with the trees on that sketch that I made, that's all you see in the photos. So you simply see nothing but trees. And the distance ranges anywhere of 900 feet to 1,300 feet. It depends upon the specific house, but the bottom line is all you see are trees. So the hangar will not be visible from any of the residents on Old Burley Street. One other item that I'd like to touch on was noise, and I think, Mr. Chairman, you might have indicated that's not in the purview of the committee, but nevertheless, we did take it upon ourselves to try to gain some intelligence, prepare some data, and look at it from an analytical lens. So what I prepared, or I didn't prepare it, I copied it. This is noise information presented by the FAA. And to give a definition and a metric of noise, it's measured in decibels. And if you've ever been to a rock band, it gets very loud, almost to the point of being painful. And you can see there, maybe, Josh, you can make it a little bigger. Thank you. So a rock band's 110. That's pretty loud. A power mower is 96. City traffic is 92, and so on. And again, these are published, published numbers recognized by the FAA, down to a vacuum cleaner at 69, and so on. The sketch at the bottom is also important because the USDA recognizes, as does other agencies, federal agencies, that trees act as a buffer, an attenuator, dampening the sound. And if there's a 100-foot planted buffer, it'll reduce the noise by 5 to 8 dBA. And these are just hard facts for the federal government. So when you think about the transmitter being the jet on the right taking off, and the resident's house on the left, the sound can be reduced and will be reduced somewhat by the trees. So with these numbers in mind, we wanted to try to triangulate and see what does that mean to the jet traffic. So the next slide is perfect. And it's a busy slide, but I'll try to explain it. Matt, could you hold up, that's a calibrated sound meter that we purchased right there. And we used that, and the column on the left, and I'll just try to explain this to you. The column on the left is a date. The second column to the right is the time of the day and the location of where the measurement was taken. So when the first one is, we did it right on the runway. We wanted to see to make sure it worked and how loud it was, and we took some sampling, and it got pretty loud, 94 decibels. And but if we look at the next one, it was taken on the 26th. It was in front of old 98 Burley Street, not Old Burley Street, 98 Burley Street. The runway in use was runway 27, taking off to the west, and it was TO, which means takeoff. The aircraft type is noted on here, a Cessna Latitude, and the tail number. That's like a license plate number. That's a specific tail number. And then the sound reading with that meter that Matt showed, 87.4, and the peak duration, so it records that. And it was taken by, this is the initials of the individual flight level employee who took it. They were all trained how to use it. I assembled this, gave them an empty pad, and they wrote them all on there, and then I put it on here so you could read the writing, because their writing was tough. And it goes on. And we also took some other additional information on the right-hand side, the last 3 columns on the right. That's background information. And the same kind of thing, the background information, how loud was it? What was the duration, and what was it? What was the source? So we have pickup trucks, automobiles, cars, we have a work van, and so on. And now we're collecting data for lawnmowers and motorcycles and so on, because those are coming out. But if you go to the next page, Josh, please, it takes the averages. So if you sum all the averages up, the average sound reading was 81 decibels for a jet aircraft. This is just jet aircraft, with a duration of 6 seconds. The same kind of summation on the background side from automobiles was 76, I think, and a duration of 10 seconds. So quieter, but longer. And the bottom part of that are, again, this is published data by the FAA and OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Agency, another federal agency. Snow blowers, 90 dB, power lawnmowers, leaf blowers, 100, trimmer, 96, so the average is 95. And I don't know about your neighborhood, but my neighborhood, the duration is not measured in seconds. It's measured in minutes, a lot of minutes. So I did some averaging around my neighborhood.
Yep. Oh, please, can you just?
So of
Go ahead.
lawn equipment, and the average is 25 minutes. So on overall average, if we go to the next slide, please. The summary table shows that the vehicle noise averaged 76, as I said, with about 10 seconds. The neighborhood yard equipment is around 95 dBA, and my neighborhood turned out to be about 25-minute average, you know, with all the litany of equipment that comes in. And if we look at a similar evaluation of the jet aircraft operations, and these readings were taken when there was no leaves on the trees, the average landing was 71 dB for 6-second duration. The 71, as we saw in that earlier table, is equivalent to a vacuum cleaner. And the takeoff was 87 with a 6-second duration, and that's loud. It's equivalent to a food blender. So the last slide that I have on, which is related to noise, are the published findings by the DOT, Department of Transportation, for the FAA, prepared by Massport Authority. The gentlemen were just here earlier this evening. And I'm going to read these in case some of the folks can't read them. And these are quoted. This is for a hangar project for Massport from 2018. This is their findings that they published in the report. Lack of a hangar space for business aircraft results in increased operations. In other words, this airport lacks hangar space, just as Beverly Airport. There's not hangar place, available hangars, so the jets are coming in, being flown in empty to pick up passengers, and then they depart, and then they return with the passengers, and then they have to depart again to go to a satellite airport. Similar situation for this airport. Lack of hangar space for business results in increased operations. Second quotation, forced to arrive to drop off or pick up passengers and wait prior to returning for the passengers. This fairing effect results from lack of hangar space, creates 4 trips with 2 empty legs, when only 2 trips would be required. They summarize by saying, overall, with the additional hangar space, there may be fewer total business landings and takeoffs than would occur without the new hangar space due to the decreased need to ferry aircraft. So not only does that decrease the noise, it decreases fuel consumption, greenhouse gases. And again, these are the findings of the FAA and Massport. So the last slide I have is just a recap of what we've done. I've introduced the team, a project overview. We talked about the stormwater management report, the inspection plan that Flight Level is offering to the residents if they would like us to do it. That there is no visual impact, and we are reducing the noise. And also, again, I extend an invite. If folks are interested in seeing the site, more than welcome. I will personally meet the folks and safely escort them out there. It is an active airport environment. You have to be escorted. You just can't, it's fenced, 8-foot fence, and secured. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's turn it back then to members of the board. We'll start with questions. Tim?
Sure, maybe quickly a point of clarification, just because the memo you had started with, I didn't fully understand the first time I read it, nor the second time. So I just want to make sure, maybe for staff, that I understand it, because what this memo says is that, and I understand the memo needs to be in legal language such that it's precise, but maybe I can use simple language. They are exempt as a airport from zoning laws. Typically in the past, we've sort of just thrown our hands up.
The use.
The use is exempt, exactly. Said, well, guess we can't regulate that. And now we're saying, well, hold on, we can regulate some parts of the design. And that was what was in the memo that Lou read.
It meets the site plan triggers criteria, right? Because it's over 1,000 square, the building's over 2,000 square feet. I think that was the only trigger. But because it meets the site plan trigger, it needed a site plan review application with the planning board because of the section 4 trigger because of the size of the building.
Understood. Okay, I just want to clarify that first. A few questions, because 2 of the things that are listed are landscaping and circulation, but I haven't seen anything in your presentation about like where is the parking, how will people access this, anything about the circulation of access to this hangar?
So, again, this is in a secured area. You have to have a badge to get out to the hangar. So it's for pilots. Passengers are escorted by the pilots or escorted by flight level personnel.
So no one drives directly up to the...
No, you have to, it's a gated, secured with a gate.
And so it'll all use that one shared parking lot that is on the west side of the airport?
Right.
And my understanding as an So this is a fixed space operator, correct, flight
Yes.
level? So people fly their private jets in, you take care for them while they take off?
They come in, they get fuel, and what's happening right now is they fly in, they drop off the passengers because they don't have a place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I just want to ask because I believe, do you offer, for example, like cars for people to take? Because when they land, they need to get out of the airport somehow, right?
There's rental cars available, there's crew cars available for the pilots if they want to, if they're spending the night or going to get a meal, or there's Ubers.
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of, so this memo says that one of the things that we're responsible for reviewing is providing adequate parking and access. And so I'm curious, if you're offering rental cars, is that an okay way to describe sort of, I fly my private jet in, I use flight level, I say I need a car. How do you provide that car? Does it stay in that parking lot? Do you see what I'm saying?
So, if the plane is based, a couple hypotheticals. The plane is a permanent resident there, it's based there, so they're no longer keeping it at a satellite airport and they have to fly it in, which is what's happening now. So now, when they drive, the pilots would be issued a badge. I have it in my flight bag. Issued a badge, they drive up to the hangar, and we have those 5 spots there. So they would park the car, and then the pilots and the passengers would get into the jet and fly away. The cars would stay there. So 2 jets, 5 parking spots, that's pretty robust.
Okay, so could you point, I did miss where
sorry, it's on
Yeah.
my screen, not yours, my fault.
where the 5 parking
Yeah.
spots are would be one question.
It's actually 4, unless I'm wrong.
I'm stand corrected, it's 4.
Okay.
I have bad eyes from his distance.
Tim, it's these 4 spaces on is this the southern side of the building?
I see,
I don't know the
okay.
cardinal direction, but
Yep.
Yeah.
I
these
see that
4
now.
right here.
Thank you. And so, but the question still stands. Do you offer do you keep cars there for the purposes of letting customers use them once they arrive?
We have 2 crew cars.
Yeah, can you describe what that is, what a crew car is?
It's a car a courtesy car.
Okay.
It's simply a courtesy car.
So will that take up 2 of the 4 spots?
No,
Where will they be kept?
they're already there right now. So we're not
Okay.
enhancing, we're not adding any more cars.
Got it.
Because people that use a jet typically get picked up by somebody or a business colleague or something.
Understood. Okay. And then, at risk of asking a question about the presentation you gave with respect to noise, because I'm sure that's on top of most people's minds. And I know that this I'll tread very lightly, mainly because I am curious, although I understand that regulating the use is outside of our jurisdiction. I was a bit surprised to see the comparison in terms of decibels for some of the other sort of household items. I don't live very close to the airport, but I live close enough to sometimes feel the jets. The dBA as a measure of decibels, can you talk more about, that's attuned to the human hearing, right?
dBA is attuned to the human hearing, yes.
Right, so it's like that's a measure of, and I'm not a scientist, fluctuation of the air, right, the pressure of the noise, but then it's adjusted to decibels that we hear, correct?
So decibels cover a wide range, some of which we don't hear because it's so low, or some that we don't hear because it's so high. So when they stand up a decibel range and they put dBA means audible, so that's in the audible range, and those readings are those published numbers are just simply extracted numbers that I copied and pasted.
Understood. Is there any I don't sort of read frequently about noise measurements about planes, but the vibrations presumably will be lower frequencies that people couldn't hear. Is there any measurement of, like a jet taking off has a pretty strong rumble. Is that ever measured? Is there a measurement for that?
So the FAA publishes for every aircraft, every jet or non-jet, what the what the sound levels are, and the manufacturer has to comply with those maximum. So all the jets comply with FAA regulations.
That wasn't the question, but I appreciate them also out over my skis perhaps a little bit. But I do think there's something there that I imagine people might read this and be incredulous to it. And so I appreciate you offering the information for us to digest. I do think it sort of begs a few questions like the one I posed that maybe you could consider for future presentations.
Well, I can certainly look into that. And again, I'm not an audio engineer. You know, I just tried to add some information, you know, to what's out there. But again, the aircraft comply with the FAA regulations of sound emission, and they comply. You know, the traffic that was said earlier, the span of control is within the FAA. You know, is not within flight levels operations. That's
Understood. I was going to ask about, well, nope, I think that's it for me, actually.
Jim?
Just a question on your landscaping. You're stating there's no landscaping shown because of safety concerns for animals and birds, I assume. What about screening of some point with opaque fencing or things like that? Would you be amenable to that?
I'm not sure where were you thinking that would go?
I know you mentioned that it can't be seen by neighbors. Is that I'm having that kind of find that hard to believe.
You mean you talking about the hangar?
Yes.
Right. So, Josh, if you can go back to that slide where I have the sectional view. And again, I have a lot of photos that go into much more detail about your question, but I just wanted to only present one. But if you go back to that, yeah, right. If you keep going.
I would start at the bottom. I thought it was at the top.
Oh, no worries.
What sheet, Bobby, what sheet are you thinking?
Let me take a look.
There's the elevations.
No.
Oh, okay.
You're right there, that's good. Yeah, so let's take a look at this. So this is at the airport on the taxiway, Bravo. So just where that snow is to the left, and the small.
This image?
Yes, but where you see the snow, that is where, and the low brush, that's where the hangar will go. And the bucket truck was taken out there and boomed up. And that distance to the trees is about, whoops. Oh, about 12, it's 1,200 feet to Old Burley Street, and it's around 700 feet to those trees, the beginning of the tree line. And then the tree width is 150 to 300 feet, depending upon where you're at. So it's very thick and it's very tall. Some of the photos I took show telephone poles, which are about 40 feet typically, and then the trees in the background are way up here. So putting in perspective, they're probably 90 feet, double the height of a telephone pole. And that's that physical barrier that divides where the hangar is going to be and Old Burley Street. So when we all these images, and I think I had like 15 pages of nothing but images, and I didn't want to bore everybody with that tonight, but I can certainly happy to share that with you.
Okay. That's all I have at the moment.
Okay. Any questions?
Hi. Yeah, my question, I have a few. So one of the questions was on the noise summary. So the table that you gave with the durations of the peak sound duration, can you explain how that was measured? Is it basically going from what the ambient level of noise was to as soon as you hear the jet and then back down to what the ambient noise was?
Yeah, good question. So with that sound meter, you can set a parameter, and what it does is the kind of as you described, you know, it increases in amplitude, and then it peaks, and then it comes back down, and that bandwidth right there is the duration. So if it's 6 seconds, where, you know, I think we had it set at 65 dB, but you set it and then it comes back down, so that peak curve is that span.
Okay. And so you took a variety of readings for different types of aircrafts, is that right?
We did. I mean, you're limited because you have to, you try to look at flight aware and
Yeah.
see when is a plane coming in, and then you can look at the tail number, you see that, and then you can look it up and see what kind of plane it is, and then you have to rush out there and position yourself on one of the roads, and then wait for it, and do the same thing when it's departing, you know. So it's not an easy situation, but for about I think a 3-4 week period, we were doing this, you know, capturing the readings, and try to get a cross section of different aircraft. You know, what
Okay.
happened to be coming and going that day. The average during those 3.5 weeks was one flight a day.
Okay. So in your table, I don't know what aircraft types are just by looking at the name of it. Can you explain if there was a significant difference between, say, like a small passenger plane versus a jet?
These are only jets that we took. These are
Okay.
multi-passenger twin-engine jets, not the small trainers. or
Okay.
Single engine.
Do you know offhand what the difference is? Like what the peak sound duration decibels would be for one of those smaller planes versus what a jet would be?
I don't offhand. I mean, again, there's only 2 jets going in this hangar.
Okay.
That's it.
So my other question was that, thank you for confirming there are 2 jets going in there. And those are jets that currently use the airport already? They're not going to be new jets coming in
Well,
in addition?
what's currently happening is these jets are parked at satellite airports because there's no hangar, no garage to keep them right now. So the jets are kept elsewhere, and then a customer, business, a private individual, family, summons the jet, it gets flown in by the pilots, and then they land and they pick them up, and then they depart. And then it goes back to its you know, wherever it's at, and then on the tail end, on the return trip, it flies back into Beverly Airport, it drops them off, and then they have to go back to their remote hangar to stay there. When we build the hangar, they'll already be there.
Okay.
So we are decreasing, as the Massport report, FAA report states, we're decreasing it by 50%.
Okay, that makes sense.
Would it be a fair statement that it's 2 permanent homes for jets and not jets to temporarily use this facility? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the intent.
Sorry to jump in, I just wanted to clarify.
It's all right, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I had one more question, I forgot.
That's my fault.
Mike, do you have any?
I just had a question. You talked about the bucket truck and you took the photos from the bucket truck, but you didn't mention that the bucket truck was there when you took the photos from Old Burley. Is that the case?
Yeah, it was just on tax, when we went out,
Right, on Bravo.
Yeah, that's
But was
the
that
area.
there when you went out on Old Burley and took the photos towards the hangar? Because how else would you know that you wouldn't be able to see the top of the hangar? Or am I misunderstanding it?
just, in other words, standing, if this is a house behind me, I'm out on the Old Burley Street, and, you know, the living room is about my eye level, right? And just looking up, just looking like that, all you see are the,
But you don't know if you would see the hangar poking over those trees because the bucket truck wasn't in place when the photos were taken, correct?
oh, I see what your point is. Well, I did on another sheet, I didn't include it in here.
Is it in the other visual documentation that you submitted?
It might be I'm not
Better
sure,
to-
but what it showed, Mike, was the angle.
Yep.
So the height, just triangulating
Yeah.
the height of the trees. And so the hangar's here, the home's here and the trees are here, and you do this, and it's like, you're not gonna be able to see it.
No, I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying. I'm just curious but the bucket truck wasn't there when you
No.
took the photo. And then I'm assuming you took those photos from eye level, and a lot of those homes do have second levels, correct? I'm not trying to poke holes. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
But I don't think from a second level, you're still gonna see it, because just the physics.
I'm just trying to make sure I understood. Yeah, okay. So that was one question. Another question is, you said retention pond, but I thought you described detention pond. Can you just clarify, is it a retention pond or is it a detention pond?
So I might, is Peter still on? Or maybe Joe, why don't you take this? So I'll let you introduce yourself, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Joe, representing Hayes Engineering. It is a detention pond.
Joe, what's your last name?
Joe Grillo.
Okay, thank you.
You said detention. Okay, thank you. And then you already answered my other question. Then the last question I had is, based on the memo which we focused on, which is just in terms of landscaping, building site, in terms of how it's integrated into the built environment, circulation, and stormwater and drainage focuses, you being an expert in this field of jets and me not being that, you more so than most people in this room maybe, what would be your concerns to those specific items as a pilot with the expertise in terms of things that are landscaping, building site, circulation, and stormwater drainage? Would you have any personal concerns if this was your neighborhood to those items?
I'm not quite sure. From the left seat as a pilot, you're asking me, can you just restate the question, please?
Sure. So with your expertise, would there be any personal concerns to things related to stormwater, vehicle circulation, integration of building into the site, in the landscaping within this area with your expertise and knowledge of jets in this neighborhood vicinity?
So, I mean, access into the area, I think we've covered that. All airports are
Yep.
secured, gated. You can't get in or out.
Yep.
The landscaping, we take a minimalist approach because we don't want, in the airport tarmac taxiway runway area, we don't want things we're gonna hit with wings of an aircraft or run over with the wheels. From the wastewater management standpoint, I think Hayes Engineering, our concerns as pilots is out on the runway, landing and taking off, or hydroplaning or those kind of issues. Nothing to do with the parking lot outside of a hangar door. That's comparing like the parking lot here in the building compared to the Mass Pike, where you're doing 65 miles an hour and you're doing 3 miles an hour in a parking lot. So the hydrology standpoint isn't a concern from a pilot standpoint. And most of the time, when the airplanes are being pushed back into the hangar, they're being pushed back in by a cart. Or when they're removing the hangar, the aircraft from the hangar, they're being pulled out by a cart. So when they're moved around quite a bit by a tugger, like you see when you go to Logan, that kind of thing. So no, nothing jumps out at me if I understood your question.
No,
Mike.
you answered. Yeah, thank you. I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. I just have a few questions, just with respect to, and just, again, turning to the criteria that you addressed. I know we talked about noise. I mean, you raised noise in your submissions, but just to the, sort of looking at, again, what town staff has advised, that we have, purview in looking at landscaping, building site circulation, and stormwater drainage. Picking up from stormwater drainage, it's my understanding that you all have a resubmittal of an application at the Conservation Commission. Is that right? And that's going to be heard at the end of this month, is that?
We have refiled again for the NOI.
Okay.
And the intent is to go the end of this month, fourth Thursday of the month, I think it is.
And there were some changes from what was, you went to them previously, is that right?
We modified, the stormwater management plan significantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. And so that's going to be, and you have a hearing at the end of the month on that. I guess just a question with respect to the build it, to the site itself, and in terms of when it comes in terms of proper screening, which is one of the landscaping elements here, in terms of minimize tree and soil removal while ensuring proper screening. Now, I think you indicated there will be no trees removed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, there's 2 to 3 trees shown on the plan.
Oh, I'm going to let Joe answer that.
Sure.
Sorry.
There are, I can't remember off the top of my head, 2 to 3 trees. I believe they were all 12 inches. They're shown on the existing conditions that do need to be removed to get the apron, the driveway in.
Okay. So, and I know you mentioned earlier, just with respect to trees, that trees can really provide a lot of buffer in terms of to the surrounding area. Is there any plan to add any additional screening from the hangar, from the surrounding, from the surrounding neighborhood?
There's no plans to add them. All of that would be within a wetland buffer, so that would all require approval from Conservation Commission.
Okay.
So, I mean, I apologize, I forgot about the 3 trees, but if we can, it wouldn't be a problem to replant 3 new trees somewhere, but like Joe pointed out, it can't be in the wetland buffer without.
Okay. And where is the wetland buffer with respect to where the hangar is?
That's tough to,
Sound like,
maybe Joe, you want to point to it?
yeah, if you can point it out.
It's kind of the bottom.
The 100, right? Is it Jason?
So this is the wetland line itself. Right here is the 35-foot no disturb, so I definitely don't think they would let us plant. These are the trees being removed, by the way. There's 2 of them.
Yep.
I don't think they would want us, maybe they would want us to put them right back there, but we need Concom approval. We can't just do it because you give us approval.
Sure.
Here's your 50-foot no build, which you're actually allowed 10% impervious in the no build, kind of a strange name for it. And this is your 100-foot wetland buffer, so we'd have to be out here to be completely out of jurisdiction. And there's really not any good place to put a tree out here.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. And I guess, and one thing that was in, and I guess this is, in terms of looking at sort of how the hangar would be situated with respect to the surrounding neighborhood in terms of, and I know I appreciate it in terms of some of the pictures and the bucket truck and such, and I know you indicated sort of at the beginning of your presentation that you'd be amenable to a site visit. So what would we see there?
So what you would see are the existing conditions.
Yes.
But it would give, the folks an understanding of the scale of the project. Also physically standing where the hangar is going to be and looking towards Old Burley Street and the magnitude of the trees. So I think there's a benefit in that. And then perhaps understanding maybe a little more just about the operations, the logistics of how you get an airplane in and out of hangar and you taxi around. And when we took the Conservation Commission out there happened to be folks getting into a jet and started up and taxied away and took off. And I didn't have the sound meter at the time. I wish I would have, because their comments were, wow, that's not very loud. But that happens to be, that jet, it happens to be
right.
The conditions that day. But those were their comments.
Got it. Okay. Okay, I don't have any further questions right now, but I think since this is a public hearing, we'll turn things over to members of the public. We have a lot of hands. I saw Mike Shannon first. We may have to have people take a number.
Mike Shannon, 29 Mass Ave in Woodville. For those of you that may not know, Woodville is a neighborhood that abuts the airport. And I'm very well aware the noises that come out of the airport. In fact, this morning I was walking up to a helicopter. I thought we were being invaded. And through the chair to Ms. Hartnett, although I cannot offer you a scientific or quantitative answer to your question, qualitatively, I can tell you that the noise that comes from a jet is unbelievably more than what comes from one of those trainers. The project that the petitioner has brought forth is impressive. And it's quite a huge undertaking. I like the fact that there will be 2 jets in the hangar, and that the language used by the petitioner was that it may decrease the amount of flights. And Mr. George, as a lawyer, you know that the word may is not very definitive. And so I'm thinking to myself, why now? Why take on this huge capital improvement if you're ferrying planes in and out anyway? Why do it now? And there's going to be a huge cost to this project. So my thought is, in order to drive revenue, in fact, the amount of flights would go up. And so my question through the chair to the petitioner, is it safe to say, and I know we cannot limit the amount of flights that you have, but isn't it safe to say to drive revenue, you would welcome and expect to increase the amount of jets that are coming in and out of the airport?
Okay, the applicant can address that.
So I just want to point out that those were not my words. Those were the Mass DOT's words.
All right, well, let one at a time, please.
Again, per the DOT, FAA findings of no significant impact report dated September 26, 2018, prepared by Mass Port Authority. The fairing effects result from lack of hangar space recreates 4 trips with 2 empty legs, when only 2 trips would be required. Those are their findings.
All right.
So
Now, just so I can, Josh, just so I can, did we have the, that Massport report in our materials? I'm trying to.
I believe, no, I believe that we just received that presentation tonight, right? There's no other previous material, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. No.
It's a public document, just as I found it. I'm happy to share it with the committee.
So no, the applicant provided this presentation just a couple minutes, or like an hour before the meeting, so.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
so no.
Because I hadn't seen that, yeah.
No,
because
I didn't either.
Okay.
I'll be happy to share.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right, question there.
Patricia Fitzgerald. I live on 16 Lafayette Ave down in
Yes.
Beaver Park. I appreciate all of this. I don't care if they build 1,000 hangars. My problem is the noise. We are directly underneath the loop that they already have for small engine planes. So for 20 hours a day, we hear 5 and 6 planes going continually over our house. I live in a split entry. We live on the top floor. The noise is unbearable, and my windows rattle, especially when a helicopter comes over. These jets,
And you submitted, you actually submitted a written comment too, didn't you?
I did.
I did review that, okay. And the rest of
these
the board.
jets have caused our windows to rattle to the point where we now need some replaced, and they're not that old. I don't think that the noise has been addressed for the neighborhoods, only for the people living right in front of the hangar.
Okay.
We have a lot in neighborhoods that are being severely affected by this noise, to the point where some people have actually moved because of the noise from the airport. They originally promised us no flight would go below 2,000 feet. They go over my house at 1,100, 5 and 6 planes at a time in this loop. They originally promised we would have some weekend time without all this. Doesn't happen anymore. It happened for maybe a couple of months, that was it. The noise is unbearable. And I don't think you have addressed, I think you did a great job with this. I don't care if you build 1,000 hangars. I do think it's going to increase jet traffic, because you're not going to spend all this money to do this when you don't have to. I mean, you're definitely going to be bringing in more revenue. And I honestly, honestly feel that the neighborhood noise has not been addressed, that the airport does not follow its good neighbor policy. It doesn't make anybody follow it, the flight schools, anybody. It's just a total waste of time for us to even do a noise complaint, because it goes nowhere. And I think it's about time that this town did something, whether you have any authority or not.
Mhm.
Obviously, you don't have a lot because of the
Right, we're limited.
FAA.
Mhm.
But it is time that this town did something to help these neighborhoods out, because we are severely affected, and we're the ones paying all the taxes. This airport doesn't pay a penny to the town of Danvers. Nothing. Absolutely
Okay.
nothing.
That's out of order.
Sky high every year.
That's out of order, okay? Let's try to keep, yeah, thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You have anything?
So again, it's, by building the hangar, this is very simple calculus, it will reduce the traffic for 2 aircraft jets. That's the simple, not the other ones. We cannot influence that. We cannot influence the small aircraft that the resident was talking about. Just 2 jets will get cut in half. Simple.
Okay, okay. Further? Yes, yes, go ahead. And please excuse me if I don't call on you at the right order, but do the best I can. Go ahead. Please
thank-
identify yourself and,
Thank you. My name is Jonna Agelikis, and I live at 91 Burley Street. I echo all of the sentiments about the noise pollution that will be happening from the jets. However, I would like to address the flooding and the stormwater that, that currently happens on Burley Street.
Okay.
And I implore the town to deny this project and all future projects, because I feel like the airport needs to be held accountable for their negligence of the stormwater that is coming from their property. I've lived at 91 Burley Street for 22 years, and our property and our neighbor 93 Burley has been flooded. Our backyards have been flooded, many storms. If you drive down Burley Street, many cars have met the huge puddles that they were not able to go through. The town of Danvers is negligent, but also the airport is. And so the town of Danvers has contacted us, and they're taking responsibility, but I would like to see the airport take responsibility, accountability. I would like for them to offer corrective measures to their property causing damage. And if they are currently putting their hands up in the air and saying that it's the town of Danvers, but if they're not taking their role seriously in this, I highly doubt that they will take any responsibility in any damage caused by future projects. So that's why I think it's so important to deny this project and any future projects until they take responsibility and corrective measures to whatever damage their property is causing to our property. And I'd like to see the town of Danvers to help the residents in that regard.
okay, thank you. Can I go and ask the applicant just to address the issue in terms of flooding? Because I know you talked about with the catch basin sort of plan, would that address in all or in part the residents' concerns?
So let me see if I can hopefully answer this for you. So the video that one of the residents shared with the town, the town shared, was that your video? Okay, well, thank you for providing that, because it told a pretty clear story that the catch basins were plugged up. Right? The point we're trying to help is to go out there and do an inspection at no cost, no obligation, and provide this for 5 years every quarter, and identify problems that on the horizon before they create a flooding situation. So that is how we are trying to be a good neighbor and to help. And maybe I didn't do a very good job of explaining the project. The project will decrease the amount of water that goes into the wetlands. And when we looked at the 2-year, it's going to decrease it by 1/3. So there will be less water that will go into the wetlands that may migrate over, but, and Joe can, talk about that more, but really what we're doing is improving the project from current conditions in 2 ways: by the detention, correct, Joe? Detention pond, and also by standing up an inspection protocol.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Okay, further, Ms. Costello? Oh.
Can I respond to that?
Oh, Yes, go
You
ahead.
have to ask questions for this chair, though.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
respond.
It has to be through the
again-
chair.
Excuse me?
Just ask through the chair, yes.
I would just like to say, again, he's just showing deflection from the airport, putting it onto the town. The basin is being flooded and drained by the water runoff from the property of the airport. And the airport is not taking responsibility for that. They're not investigating it, they're not doing any type of corrective measure on their part, on their end. They have a role in it as well, and they're just deflecting all of it to the town of Danvers. And so if they are not taking responsibility for their role in the flood, in the water drainage, in the stormwater flooding, it just goes to show that they're just not going to take that responsibility in the future with any other project.
Got it, thank you. Mr. Costello, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. William Costello, 7 Fairview Street, but perhaps most importantly for tonight's meeting, I am one of 2 commissioners to the Beverly Regional Airport Commission. Okay. What I have to say, and I feel a little bit bad rebutting a technical professional, is Town of Danvers is woefully unrepresented in the administration of Beverly Airport. We have 2 commissioners in an assortment of 9 total. And realistically speaking, you've got me, because my fellow commissioner here from Danvers is seldom there. And when he's there, he usually chides in with those people coming from Beverly. No disrespect meant by that comment. But 37% of Beverly Airport lies in Danvers, okay? Yet 100% of the decisions of what happens with Beverly Airport are made in Beverly City Hall or in the manager's office, okay? And that's not necessarily bad, but it's like we have no say in the matter. I've been commissioner only for less than a year, but I've been attending these meetings for a long time, decades, okay? And I can tell you that what I've seen, there's 2 gentlemen here, I've seen them consistently come and make the same comments pretty much every month for years, decades. And they're just not acknowledged, or their words are dismissed immediately. It's only in the last month I've seen them actually acknowledge what they've had to say. And what I'm getting at is here that we're not represented. What we have to say is being rebuffed. When Mr. Zubrick, I think it was, suggested, why don't you build your hangar in Beverly, it was laughed off. Why? You know, why are you putting it in Danvers? Isn't that nice? Just put it over there. Danvers, in my opinion, receives no benefit from Beverly Airport. And please don't get me wrong. I'm a pilot. I'm very pro-aviation. People who know me realize that as a career. I'm an engineer and I'm an aerospace professional. And, but I don't really see anything the town of Danvers is getting except aggravation, which has led to simmering anger. Okay? And without going into a whole lot of detail, I think if the means were provided, that the taxpayers of Danvers would vote to secede from Beverly Airport. So please keep my words in mind, and I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Yes, you have a question?
Thank you. My name's Jim Hill. I live at 1 Anthony Lane in Danvers, and I'm just looking for some clarification. So, as the gentleman stated, the hangar is going to be built to house 2 jets currently using the airport, which will reduce air traffic because ferrying passengers back and forth. So my first question is, what is the use of a hangar? Is it just to house aircraft?
Please go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, it's simply just to house them, keep them out of the weather, icing conditions, and so on, because it's a big investment. It's like putting a car in a garage versus leaving it out on the street.
Maintenance take place there as well?
No, no maintenance, just a garage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Zubrick?
Mark Zubrick, long-term participant with the airport for the town of Danvers and defender of the residents in our town. The one statement that I wrote for myself here is that we're missing the elephant in the room, because we're talking about issues that do not have anything to do with the beauty of the hangars are in the eyes of the beholder. We're talking about the hangars that are being proposed at this airport. We have been discussing noise for years. We have been discussing expansion for years. The hangar is a football field size structure that's going to be located on the hillside of the west side of the airport, looking at the neighbors' front doors and their living rooms and their dining rooms. The problem is that we're getting diverted to a point where Mr. Lawrence and I are both engineers, and we know where this thing is going. Mr. Lawrence has done an excellent job in explaining the engineering information that's required to defend this project. I have been dealing with Mr. Lawrence and the Beverly Airport Commission for years now. The thing is that this is something that we're discussing here with limited authority to make any changes except to let people vent. The planning board really has very little authority here except for the items that you've mentioned in your summary. Landscape and landscape shall be preserved to the natural state. I mean, I don't know what that really means. It's not going to be natural state. I mean, the hangar is a football field size piece of building. Relation of buildings to the environment. That's something that you may want to consider, because this hangar is affecting the environment of the airport itself and the neighborhood that is being impacted by that structure and the associated expansion that's happening at the airport. There's a master plan that's been discussed for probably last 5 or 6 years. The expansion is to lengthen the runways in both directions, 300 feet towards Wenham and 300 feet towards Beverly. There's nothing happening on the Beverly side of the runways. Everything is being jammed into the west side, which is the Danvers portion of the airport. The airport is made up with 170 acres of the property that belongs or is in the boundaries of Danvers. So that's the second item. The third item here is circulation. Special attention shall be given to traffic circulation. There's a parking lot over there already established years ago, and as far as I remember, because that was done during my tenure as selectman, the parking lot is semi-located in the wetlands. And there was a proposal for a hangar that was going to be in the wetlands, and that was stopped. So you have very limited authority and responsibility except for letting us make sure that we can express our views to the planning board. Planning board has maybe some stormwater drainage, and that's been discussed. That's not an issue. It's the eyesore that's happening in front of our eyes, and we don't even know it. So I just want to get this out because I am very passionate about this issue. And I have been dealing with it for many years, since 1995, because that's when the trees were cut. And we all felt it. Now, what's going to happen? We're talking about 3 trees? I mean, come on, guys. Let's get serious. This is something that needs to be restrained. And I don't know if the planning board can put a stop to it, but you need to consider the environmental impact, which is environmental to us means eyesight, air, emissions, and we're talking about jets sitting in that garage. The garage is going to get warmed up because they're going to rev up the engines and run the jets right there at the boundary of the West End. So that's all I want to say, and I said it, so please consider that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zubrick. Tony? To the extent that we can, try to keep your comments succinct and as,
Understood.
if it's already been said, try to,
I understand.
Thank you.
I'm just going to try. There's too much to go on here.
Go ahead.
No question in my mind anyways. Okay. Tony Betancourt, town meeting member, precinct 5. I'm a town meeting member in the area that we're in talking about, okay? Live 15 Thorpe Circle. Here's the thing. They talked about decimal readings, okay? Anything over 60, okay, gets doubled, okay? So when you're talking 65, 70, that's doubled, okay? That's number one. So let's start there. The planes coming out of there, noisy as all hell, okay? They won't pass a lot of the stuff, okay? Let's forget that. Now, I went around to my neighbors yesterday, because I'm a town meeting member. I walked around. It's 50 people, okay? 50 people, okay? Not one person wants this, okay? A lot of people are old. They couldn't come to this meeting, okay? The one guy was handicapped. I only had one person, okay? One person, one older gentleman, okay? I didn't insult him, okay? He told me it's good. Bringing jets in, they're going to bring a lot of money in for the town, a lot more tax money. I didn't want to insult the guy and tell him we don't get any money, okay? That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, question? Yep.
Thank you. My name's Marty Shooter. I live on Leicester Road, 25-year resident. Just some of the comments that I've heard today. I've heard that we don't get any tax revenue from the airport, even though a significant chunk is in the town of Danvers. Are we addressing that? Why don't we?
That's not before us today.
So I wanted on the record that somebody should be looking into it. You also mentioned that at the beginning that because of rules and laws or the FAA, whatever, that we have very limited purview. Based on the vibe I'm getting here, I think it's time to call in the lawyers and to address that and to fight it, because you just have very upset people, aggravated. I live in where the noise comes, my windows rattle. I've heard planes taking off at 11:30 at night. And if that expansion, along with the hangar, allows larger jets to come in, because the jets that are being thrown right now are relatively small. If you go up in size, you're going to have this room packed out with people. It's just going to get really bad. Also, they mentioned that that right now that they believe that the traffic will reduce because people come to the airport and their plane flies in to pick them up.
If you're going to be talking, excuse me, if you're going to be talking, if you could take it outside, if you're going to be talking, just because he's speaking.
Thank you. If it's being used now so that people come to the airport and a plane flies in to pick them up and then flies back or drops them off and goes, why don't they just drive to the airport where their plane is housed? Like, why isn't some of this traffic in Hanscom? Hanscom is 30 minutes from here. To say that private jets are flying into here, dropping people off, and then flying somewhere else, and then flying back, so that there's the 0.0001% of us are using it as a taxi, I find that incredibly disappointing. With all the work, climate change, there is nothing worse for climate change than private air travel. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, question? And we have you, Trish, we have you next up, right after. Sorry.
Hi there. My name is Janie Hill, and I'm a resident on 1 Anthony Lane. But
I have to tell you, I feel like Danvers failed us. This is where I'm coming from because we've been having these meetings for, I've lived in Danvers for, like I said, 38 years. And I'd say over the last 5 years, we have over 100 planes a day coming. Just, you feel like they're just running you over, and they go over the same neighborhood. Anthony Lane is mutilated. It really is. And as I listen to that lady in Beaver Park and I listen to this commissioner, I feel like we just don't have representation from this town. Beverly owns this. Why are they going over neighborhoods? They're killing us all with their fumes, the noise. We can't even have a cookout. Come to Anthony Lane, I invite you all. I'll have a cookout. And you can really, we're not exaggerating. You need to listen as a town, because really it's not even desirable to live here anymore. You do want to leave. And I feel like we're good citizens. We give to this town, we give to this community, but the town of Danvers is not representing us at all. And maybe it's not your job, but someone in this town should look at us and listen. Sally Kerrins has spoke for us. But I feel like, how can we talk about the same thing over and over again and get nowhere? And then now we have a diversion, like I said, we have a hangar. The noise is a real problem. Go back to Wenham, where the $1 million homes are, go that way. Or go out, go over to Topsfield, where there's conservation land. Why are you going over neighborhoods? And so I ask you, and maybe you have nothing to do with this, go back to all the town people here. Come to Anthony Lane neighborhood or whatever other neighborhoods you hear here, and just sit with us for a day. And you will not know, we're not exaggerating at all. We live this every day. It makes us want to move, so you might want to think about it.
Okay,
But thank you.
Trish, ready, go ahead. I called on her first. Trish and the team. Yep. And you were next.
Tish Lentini, 200 Old Burley Street. Just two quick questions. With regard to the woods, we did experience the 1995, oops, we clear cut instead of select cut. As the trees grow and they impact the flight paths or visuals, I'm not sure what the technical part of it is. What are those plans and how does that factor into future buildings or management? Because we're talking about this hangar having a buffer of 300 feet, perhaps estimated 300 feet depth of the trees with or without foliage. And my second question is for Mr. Lawrence, how are you going to handle the construction management of the traffic going in and out of the neighborhood? Because that's really significant too. It's a lot of noise, it's big, heavy equipment. There's going to be the installation of the building, which I'm assuming is steel and long and big, and there's already a lot of busy traffic coming and going. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawrence, can you address those points?
So if I understood your first comment, I don't know if, and question, yeah, the tree cut that occurred in 95, I think maybe either Steve Connolly or Matt Lawton from Connolly Brothers, if you'd like to talk about the construction equipment coming and going. I can talk broadly about it. Most of the construction equipment will be mobilized in other words, we're talking about excavators and such. That'll be brought in and kept at the job site.
Okay.
It'll be kept there. It won't be in the public area. It'll be off in the work zone, which will be corridored off in concert with the airport manager and the tower and operations and all that. There will be material deliveries of steel deliveries for the building itself, the siding and such. That is typically spread over weeks. A steel 40-foot van, trailer will come in, and that's choreographed. Work hours will be established from a noise, traffic, when the fellows show up and depart. Steve, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and again, can you identify yourself for the audience?
Yep. Steve Connolly, with Connolly Brothers in Beverly. We're general contractors, construction managers. We've built a number of hangars at Beverly Airport, actually on the Danvers side, over the years. The construction equipment that will be used there will be, I think, probably something in the order of 1,000 feet or so from the nearest house. It's pretty well shielded. It's not going to be huge equipment. There'll be no big cranes because we've got planes flying around, and the FAA doesn't allow that, so most of the steel erection will get done, or all of the steel erection will get done with a lull, not with a crane. And I don't think that there'll be much noise heard at all by the neighbors from the construction.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay. Further questions, gentlemen, next? Oh, I'm sorry, I called on, sorry about that. Hold on, can you just wait for the gentleman in the dark coat? Sorry about that, I called on him first. Sorry about that, you're next.
My name is Jim Lanfear. I live at 155 Old Burley Street, and I am direct abutter to the airport on both the side and the back of my property. It's approximately 500 feet on the side that runs parallel with Bradford Road. There's several issues that the first issue, for the past week, we've had to listen to huge machines coming in and cutting all the vegetation. Anything that was growing, they cut it. And they reached over the fence and they came right up to my property line and cut all of the buffer that helped with the noise and everything. And
This low-level stuff, is that?
this, well, the machines went up pretty high and reached, and they cut trees also. They also cut some trees at about 8 inches in diameter that were growing through their fence, which then now they're replacing, I've been told, about 1 mile of fence. And the other issue that we have is every time a jet goes out on the taxiway, the fumes are incredible. I have to run to shut the window because they get in the house, they smell up the house, they smell it. You can't sit in your yard without smelling these fumes. And the noise is bad enough, but the fumes are really bad, and they cut all the vegetation, which kind of killed a lot. I've got a picture of that, but I don't have anything to show it big enough but I could show you if you'd like to see it.
Could show it just, you could, if you have a.
You give it to staff.
You can give it to staff. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Mr. Lanfear, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Well, the main thing was the fumes, and it's not just me, it's my neighbors as well. They're all affected by it. The noise is bad. They did put a run-up next to my property, right next to it, and it was very loud, but the Beverly Airport Commission came over, took measurement, and said no. And they did close that, so that was one good thing that they did do.
Okay, gotcha.
Other than that, it's fumes and the vegetation that they cut. I know it'll grow back, but it's like they have no preparation to let people know they're coming to do this. And
Okay.
that was pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Does the applicant have anything just to say with respect to the vegetation cut down? Is that something you're aware of in terms of? Yeah, if you can just address that, because that sound.
I don't actually know anything about this, so that would be the airport operations where our client is specifically flight level, so that would not be something directly involved with the applicant. That's
Okay.
kind of what I had to say about it.
Okay. Yes, you have a question? Oh, okay, can you address that?
Comment to that.
Why don't you go to the microphone, just so people can hear you from home?
The airport has been talking about improving the fencing around the airport for some time. They've been to the Conservation Commission in Beverly. I believe they've been to the Conservation Commission in Danvers. And there's a project, I don't know if they're doing the whole thing now. I've got nothing to do with it, but it's being done by the Airport Commission.
Okay, thank you. Now you. Yes, go ahead, you're on.
Before I fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep on us. Identify yourself and.
My name is Joe Rinaldi. I live on 9 Anthony Lane. I had a question for you, sir.
Through the chair, please.
Sorry?
Through the chair.
Through the chair, sorry, through the chair. Could I ask you where you live, what town you live in?
That's not a, I don't think that's a.
That's not appropriate?
No, I don't think
wasn't
that's a relevant
asking-
question.
I wasn't asking him to give me an address. I just was wondering, say he said he lived in Woburn or something like that. And I was going to continue to ask him, is it nice and quiet there and peaceful? Probably is. It's not quiet and peaceful where I live. Not with the planes that come over here. Now you want to put jets in the mix. I mean, it's just going to be atrocious. You're saying that there's only going to be 2 jets in the hangar.
Again, through the chair, sir.
I'm sorry, through the chair. There's only going to be 2 jets in the hangar. Is that correct?
That's what he
Right.
advised. That's what
Now,
he
does
said.
does that mean that there'll only be those 2 jets, or could they put 2 jets out in the tarmac at times, so there'll be 4 jets altogether?
What he said was that there were 2 jets, that the hangar will hold 2 jets.
And that's all. There'll never be any other jets beside those 2 jets.
He didn't say that. He said that the hangar holds 2
Well,
jets.
whatever. I mean, it makes a big difference. You could put 2 jets in the hangar and then have them scattered around too, and that just makes a lot more. In any case, is it my understanding through the chair that only 2 jets can fit in that hangar? I think you said that, but I just want to make sure.
I will, Mr. Lawrence, he's nodding his head that yes, the answer is yes.
Right. Okay. As I said, for years, my neighbors and I, and I know you guys aren't responsible and can't do much about it, and I realize anytime we want to get some action taken, everybody hides behind the federal agencies, especially the FAA, who has done an excellent job at regulating the air industry.
Okay.
I point out the 738 MAX, which they were very responsible for all the crashes and
Okay, if you can
planes
keep to
flying
your-
off
if you
planes.
can keep
All right,
it relevant to the point at
Let me get back to my
hand,
point. But
to the
anyhow, there's
hangar.
been an awful lot of noise that we've experienced. We've experienced noise for over 4 years when we didn't experience it in the past. And now it just thunders over us. Yesterday, as usual, like many other days, it was horrendous nonstop barrage of propeller planes flying over my house. I couldn't even watch The View, the Jennifer Hudson show, Fox, and the onslaught continued into the supper hour and throughout the evening. It's disgraceful. And now there's a move to put a jet hangar in Dallas that's only going to increase the noise and the pollution. The pollution is unbelievable. Bad as it is from the jets, it's worse with those propeller-driven planes that unload unleaded, leaded poisonous exhaust that drop on all of us, and especially our children. If you weren't aware of that, you can't put lead in your car or lead in your paint, but they can put it in their planes to recreate, and that's why I refer to Beverly Airport as Beverly Recreational Airport, because that's all they do is recreate around us, around and around and around. Of course, they're training pilots, whatever. Yeah, most of those pilots don't even get their regular single plane certificates. So basically, it's just having fun at our health expense. It hurts our ears. It hurts the leaded pollution that we have to breathe in, and especially our children, who are most vulnerable. They've done studies that show it affects cognitive learning, it affects their IQ, and anytime you get lead poisoning, that poison is irreversible. And so you want more pollution? Good luck with that. Enough really is enough. Thank you.
Mr. Bradstreet? Oh, I'm sorry,
My name is Steve Bloomerth. I live at 22 Lane. I've lived there since 1990. With regard...
I've received your written comments as well, Mr. Bloomerth.
Great.
Yeah.
40,000 square feet will hold between 7 and 8 jets. The FAA said in 2015 in Planning for the Future, hangar size predicts traffic. You don't build a 40,000 square foot multi-million-dollar building and not expect increased air traffic. When we're talking about noise, sound, It's not sound. My neighbor Stan, when the jets go by his house at 5 Bradford Road at 11:30 at night, the whole house shakes. So that's not sound. That's seismic vibrations waking him up. And he tells me, 11:30 at night, when your whole house shakes, you don't sleep again. Why don't you say something, Stan?
Okay. Well, we had the next question from Mr. Bradstreet.
Stan's already here.
No, Mr. Bradstreet would go, he had his hand raised first.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bradstreet?
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. I had two comments more.
Go ahead.
One, if this is passed, the fuel storage containers, I believe, was stated that they would be moved. Where are they going to be moved to? How are the tanks going to be contained in case there is a fuel leak or major loss of fuel, which, I mean, is a containment under as well as around? And the other is 2 jets now. How do we handle more jets in the future? Because I think everybody has said, you get your foot through in the door, it never ends.
Okay. Ms. Lawrence? Fuel issue first, please.
So I think the issue about the fuel tanks, let me try to answer that. The existing fuel tanks are 2 10,000-gallon double-walled tanks, and they're simply going to be moved. And Josh, if you could go to
Just scroll down a little.
Yep, there.
Is it on the sheet or different?
If
The sheet?
maybe go to the previous slide. Thank you. Yeah. So where Steve is pointing to
Yep.
is the location of the new location of the tanks. And if you go up to the previous slide, Josh, it shows existing conditions.
Yep, that's right.
Those are the existing fuel tanks there, sir. Do you see them behind Steve? Yeah, so the tanks are up there. I was working with a firm out of New Hampshire that this is what they do, aviation fuel tanks. And so we sent them information into last week, and they're looking at it. And, they have a whole safety protocol about how you physically move it and so on. So it'll be well scripted, but they are going to a more benign position, getting away from operations and on the backside of the car parking lot area.
Okay. And then the other question I think he had with respect to the sort of the hangar in terms of future use of the hangar or within future years.
It's a hangar.
It's a hangar.
Just a garage.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up. Any other further questions? I think you had a. Go ahead.
I just have.
You can just repeat your name just for the record.
Stanley Sleepaway 5 Bradford Road. Just have one question in 27 parts. Kiddingly. The first
try to
question
do
I
the best
had-
you can.
Excuse me. Josh, you mentioned section 4 of
Through
your
the chair,
zoning
please.
laws. Through the chair, please. Josh, you mentioned section 4. Why is it 39,960 square feet that they show for the building, but don't take into account the shed area in the square foot calculations? I've looked at the schematics, I've done the math a couple of times. I asked this question pointedly. Does 40,000 square feet in your zoning laws or in the MEPA regulations trigger an environmental notification form?
Well, I think the question was directed through the chair to town staff in terms of significance of the size of the hangar, and we have only what's before us. So what is?
I mean, from the section 4, the Danvers zoning bylaw, the trigger for why one of the reasons we're here tonight is because it's above 2,000 or above 1,999 From the town of Danvers zoning bylaw, I don't believe there's, between, I guess, the numbers that you're just saying, what's being proposed at 39,900
60 square feet.
and 60 and 40,000 plus is not a.
And whether or not something triggers something under
Yeah,
the Mass
yeah,
Environmental
right,
Protection
right.
Law,
Well, I-
that's not relevant to what's before us tonight.
Right.
Well, through the chair, you don't deal with the environmental notification forms?
I mean, I think that they might be like sent to the planning office to get stamped or something, but, that's one of the Massachusetts state agencies, not, the local town of Danvers is reviewing like MIPA filings.
But
We would get a copy of it.
Right.
You're not aware of the MIPA regulations?
I don't have like their triggers like memorized, if that your question.
Well, that would be one of the triggers if you inquired into it. Secondly, over 2 acres of impermeable land, including the hangar and the new paving that would be for the structure, for this project itself, may also trigger a MIPA review and require, at the least, an environmental notification form. Again, these are things that your board has to consider when looking at approval of this. A bigger picture is, do you legally have the right to deny this application tonight? Mr. Chairman.
It comes before us, and so, it's before us. We can take a variety of action on it. The matter can be following public hearings, as to any other hearing would be. It could be continued, it could be granted, it could be denied.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the bigger picture of things with the airport, why has there not been more environmental review of this master plan as put forth by the Beverly Airport? Why is there no draft environmental impact review? Why has there not been triggered any of these things with the airport itself? This is a master plan, and each little piece that goes into this master plan, this being one of them, as stated in the master plan, the expansion of more hangars, why aren't they considered? Or has the question been asked of Mass DEP? Aren't they all a part of a sequence that may trigger a draft environmental impact statement or report? And aren't these things we should be considering when looking at approval? Just this microcosm here. Because this is one thing you can start to do as a board. You can start to say, let's slow down. Let's see what the bigger picture is here. All of this, the noise pollution, the ground pollution, the potential water pollution of these additional flights, they try to call them missions. Missions. I don't know what that's about. Isn't that affecting the Ipswich watershed as well? All these flights, the additional flights, never mind the noise pollution? You have to start thinking about the bigger picture here. And you have it within your purview today to slow this down. Please take it under advisement. Ask the MIPA reviews about this. We'll be asking it of the Conservation Commission on June 27th as well. And let's start looking at the bigger picture and how these individual actions fit into that. And definitely have taxation on our part, that taxation being noise pollution, air pollution, groundwater pollution. That's our taxation without the representation. And at some point, that legislation for the Beverly Airport needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Betcourt?
What he's saying here is true. I believe it's Part 151, okay? That is a FAA regulation when you go into a big thing to go into a big understand what they should be doing this. We've asked for this. They don't want to do it. We have to make them do it, okay? That's what we have to do. The noise out there is unbelievable. There's no way you can pass this, okay? Like I told you, I went out and talked to 50 people, okay? Out of 50 people, I tell you, there's only one person that thought we got tax money. So we have to, come on, we have to be smart here, okay? The town of Danvers has to stand behind their goddamn residents, okay? It's about
Okay,
time.
just keep your language.
I understand that, but
Watch
it's
the
true,
language.
okay? Because they have to. This has been going on for too long. You know that at town meeting, too, we had two things that passed. But what passed has no teeth to it. We have to put teeth to it and make it work, okay? Thank you, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate what the board does for us, okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any further comments from members of the public? Yes. And then we'll come back to the board.
Arlene Barberi, 5 Leicester Road. I'm going to echo what everybody else before me has probably said, but I've lived in my home for 34 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Danvers. I have to echo that I am disappointed. I appreciate the analysis you did with the decibels and so on and so forth, but my common sense approach is I have very good hearing. I know what I'm hearing. I can feel vibration under my feet when the jets take off. I know when my nervous system is heightened because the noise is so loud. I also have the luxury of sitting in my office at 66 Cherry Hill Drive, and I watch what happens from right in front of me. I watch the circling of the little planes, the takeoffs and landings, the practices. I know we're talking about jets, but in addition, the helicopters are a big concern of mine as well. I think it's Channel 7, Channel 25, every news, 6 o'clock, noon, 6 o'clock at night. And yes, so I just felt like I needed to.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. There's nothing further. We'll come back to the board. What is the will of the board? If you have any further questions or comments, I have some concerns, and so. But Jim, did you want to?
I was just going to state that I think that we need more information. I would seek to continue this meeting to gather further information regarding stormwater management, environmental impacts. The applicant has suggested a site visit. Perhaps we could coordinate a site visit with the board.
Yeah. I would definitely be in favor of that.
You know, for hopefully a majority of the members of the board can come. Is that something you could do on a Saturday, or would it just be during the week?
Whatever day and time works best for you.
Okay, and then I'm interested further as a gentleman about the MIPA concerns, violations, and so on. And I think I appreciate everyone coming tonight. I know it's been a long night, and I appreciate your concerns. And I know that we can only do so much as this particular board. And typically, we're dealing with site visits, site reviews of buildings, and whether it's a shopping center or a subdivision. So we're limited here, but we do, I'm encouraged to see selectmen here, and I know, probably they're, watching at home, and our town state representative was here as well. So those are the people we got to reach out to, whether you do a petition to the selectmen and try to get some additional representation or change. I think that's what you really need to look into. But I would suggest, for me, personally, I don't think I can vote on this evening. I need more information.
Okay, very good. Tim?
Yeah, I really like the idea of a site visit, and I think especially two of the questions that came up today that I'd like to hear more about. One is the size. Yeah, I know nothing about jets, but the size of the hangar. We're taking your word on that's going to hold 2. I have no idea if more. I think that's one thing I'd be curious to understand. And one point of clarification, because to the extent we have a follow-up discussion on this, with my stammering about low frequencies, if you could provide the same analysis with dBL or dBz or some other decibel scaling, because we did hear a lot of comments from people that I think echoed what I said, which is that the low frequency of the jets is the particularly disruptive sound relative to hearing. I don't doubt your analysis findings that it might sound quiet, but when you feel the rumble, I think you'd probably measure that better with low frequency decibel scaling.
So I'm not, I'll see what I can find out about that. But, I think the takeaway point that we're trying to make clear is this decreases the amount of noise.
Right, but that's with dBA, and I think that the relative low frequency strength of a jet is very different than a lawnmower. And so if you measure those, I don't think it's actually in the purview, but to the extent you will be presenting this again, Just a request that it would be
Yeah.
great if you could consider that.
I will definitely look into it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tim, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Jean?
Yeah, I would also be in favor of continuing this. I know we do have another member of the planning board who is not here, who would probably have some good insight. I think it's important for us to keep in mind preserving quality of life for the residents near the airport and property values, among other things. So some more information would be helpful for us. Thank you.
Mike?
I just had a follow-up on the site visit. I know you said it was difficult when you guys were doing DBA analysis with like what type of planes and stuff were flying in. Is there any way to like know when or a flight is scheduled so that we can be there in a time when it actually makes sense for us to kind of see these planes and feel these planes and hear these planes? I grew up in the vicinity, but not on Old Burley. So I'm just curious if that's something that even could be possible or if that's not really something we could schedule. I assume they have to file things with the FAA when they're going to fly and when they're not going to fly, but I don't know how far in advance they need to do that. So just a question.
No,
To the extent we could be on like a typical day, that sort of,
Yeah, a typical day,
Come over to my house anytime you want,
a typical day is as a pilot, file a flight plan, typically an hour before you file it online.
Okay.
And that's all that's required. And then the lens that we have into it as observers, not sitting in the cockpit, is you can flight it on, you can look on a service like FlightAware
Yeah.
and see that when it's coming in and what the anticipated estimated time of arrival is.
My only concern with Jim's suggestion with the Saturdays, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of trainings and Cessnas and smaller planes. And do a lot of the jets fly in on weekdays more for business travel? Is that an accurate statement?
That is an accurate
So the
statement.
problem is that I'm assuming those flight visits would need to take place during business hours typically?
That may be a better
So that
time.
might be a conversation that the board needs to have, but I'm just curious if that makes more sense just to find some time when we can actually be there.
Probably have a better likelihood of capturing a jet in operation during a weekday.
Sure.
I would say all flight, like historical flight data is available openly, so we can also look at and sort of pick a day that works for us and look at when the jets are coming in.
Well, the other, excuse me, Tim, but the other thing we'll do is I'll ask our operations manager, sometimes he'll be notified a day or two in advance. Somebody's coming in, so we have a heads up. So if I can get that, I'll share it with
share with
Josh.
planning staff.
How much time do you think, what's the action date?
So it just, we have 90 days when we close the public hearing, so.
If we continue the public hearing, then it's 90 days from close of public hearing.
So.
Okay.
So if we're on that topic.
So I would move
Yeah,
to continue.
Can I?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a couple of comments, Mike.
Yeah.
Yep, didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah,
sorry.
so I just wanted, just to point out, I'm in agreement with my fellow board members with respect to, I don't believe I have enough information today to make a decision. I think that as soon as you began the presentation by saying inviting a site visit, I thought that was a great idea. And so I think that's something that I would feel, especially looking at the photos and such, I feel seeing it closer is important. And I even though we are limited, as I pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, we're limited in terms of what we can do as far as the planning board, we do have authority on site plan review, in areas, as even Mark Zuberg was mentioning earlier, landscaping, building site, environment, circulation, stormwater drainage. And so I want to make sure that we're really on top of things with respect to that. And I am very cognizant of the neighbors as well. We all live in town. I am, I grew up on, I've told us before, I grew up on Water Street near the Creason Cook Tannery. So which is now condos, and I knew what that, know what noises and smells are like. So I'm definitely, cognizant of what residents are saying. So, so I think continuing things, I think would make sense. I am interested as well in the, I know you forwarded to me, but that FAA study. Now, mind you, I think that was, it seems like there's a little bit of age to it, so I'm not sure if there's anything more recent that has been done that you could forward along to Josh, sort of in that same vein. I think that would be helpful because it looks like it's been 6 years from then, so.
I'll be happy to do that. When I researched it, that was the latest one I found. I'll look again, maybe I'll put somebody younger than me on the task and they might be.
That's always good. So, good. All right, so is there, so I guess then, do we have a, I'd like to entertain a motion
Well-
to, oh,
Just,
yes.
and just,
Oh, yeah, we're talking about dates and timing, yeah.
so, then there's, the next, regularly scheduled meeting is June 25th. I'm not sure if that gives us enough time to put this all together. I'm throwing that to the board.
I mean, it covers, I mean, the thing is, we'd be looking at a site visit, but then if we're looking at some of these other issues and sort of stormwater, environmental, the Concom is gonna be looking at this case on the 27th, right? So I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I
if
would
that's
think-
too
I would
early.
think maybe put it for the
Yeah.
July meeting.
So as we speak right now, on our schedule,
July 23rd, right?
we have a July 23rd. However, the chair and I, just logistically, we were talking through how if it would be open, if the board was available to potentially meet just move that date a week earlier. I just wasn't sure if everyone's
I have a prior commitment on the
23rd.
on Tuesday, the 23rd, with the Danvers Historical Society, so I would prefer, if we can, to do something if it's possible with my fellow members, to do something on the 16th. Does that work
That's
in
what-
this space?
The select board has not scheduled it, definitively set up a meeting for July. If it couldn't happen here, it could happen at the senior center.
Okay, so if it was not held here, we could have it at the senior center.
Yes, I believe so.
Sounds a lot better for a big crowd.
Sure. So that could be part of, we just have to continue it to a date certain. We don't have to decide the location at this moment.
Okay.
If that
Got
makes
it.
sense.
All right.
But I guess to the group, is everyone available if we did move it to the 16th, is everyone available?
16th, is that
Yep.
work for?
I know it's summer.
I don't know about Tory, but.
Right, it's hard to, but we would have a quorum at least.
We'd have a quorum.
So that's the best we can do,
Yeah.
you know.
And if Tori's able to make that meeting, he would be able to participate so long
He would
as
have to watch this whole hearing and
Okay.
sign the Mullins, and then he could vote on it.
Okay. Okay. So July the
So I
16th.
would
to make
move
a
that we continue this hearing until July 16th, 2024.
Okay. Jim has made that motion. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Jean. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All right. All in favor of the motion to continue this public hearing until the planning board meeting of July 16th, 2024, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None.
In addition, could we get maybe a few dates from you?
I could work with, or
Yeah,
we could,
not on a Monday. Probably like a Thursday or Friday.
I was thinking
I don't
Thursday.
know.
I was thinking
It's usually a
Thursday.
better
I was
day.
thinking of
Like a
Thursday too.
Thursday.
All right, so we'll.
Wednesday, Thursday. Not a Friday.
Well, we're done. We've moved on, so,
You could ask me at the meeting or email me if I could, whatever.
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, you're good. Okay.
Thank you. We're going to just do the minutes.
Yep, let's just do the next agenda item are the minutes from our previous meeting. Oh,
No,
not
no,
previous
I
meeting, I'm
think-
sorry. It's late.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, the meeting is not, the meeting is still going on, so please do not,
Oh, mine?
please hold your conversations down. Please go outside if you're going to be talking. Okay, we have minutes from our,
No, it's old.
Last August.
yep, these are minutes from our August 1st, 2023 meeting.
Yeah, there was just yeah. We hadn't voted on them yet, and I've discovered that we hadn't, so
Okay.
sorry about that. It was my fault.
Okay. I believe all of us were in
All right.
Email me anything you want.
Okay, we're all, yep, we have it here. And in terms of board members who are present, everybody who is in attendance here should be able to vote on it. So are there any changes to the minutes? No? May I entertain a motion?
Move to accept.
Jim Sears moves to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jean. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Anything?
Yes, just land use summit this Thursday,
Yep.
same room, 6 to 8. That's fine. I just wanted to
Land Use Summit is here.
hear 6 to 8.
I didn't see it on the town calendar.
It might not be, but
Could I be a little late?
yes,
I'm going to be away. I'm
6.
I'm away.
Bring my
Thursday.
6-year-old.
Yeah.
I'll be,
Going south,
good for you.
finally.
I'll be in attendance.
Okay.
Okay.
As
So,
shall I.
all right, so that's the next thing. And then our next,
And then there's also next Thursday, housing production plan.
I can't make that one.
Yeah, that's also that same 6 to 8 next Thursday, the 20th.
okay,
Yeah, at the senior center
right. And our next regularly scheduled meeting,
is, yeah, well, the 25th, that will likely be canceled now because it will be the 16th. So I'll update the calendar tomorrow. This item will have to be on it, and then I'll figure out where it will take place, but will likely be the senior center. It just, I have approval or the okay, whatever, logistically for the July 23rd, but since we moved it, I just have to confirm. If we don't have availability at the senior center that night, it will have to be here, but I will, because of the crowd that will likely be there, I will move it to the senior center if I can.
okay. Sounds good. Just make sure to let us know where we go. All right.
Excuse me, is there enough parking for us all to go to the location of the new hangar?
Yeah,
Danvers side or Beverly side?
the,
Let's go on
I think this
Danvers
is
side.
significant. I think that's not an issue. But I will, so yes, that will be homework for me in trying to
Yes.
finalize.
Something tells me
Yeah.
it's going to be for the board.
Yes.
Well, he did actually extend to everybody.
He did extend. Mhm.
I'll have to confirm all of that, but yes, I will make sure we are doing that on the up and up. But yes, I hear what you're saying, though.
But we're doing a site visit. It's not a meeting, so we can't really discuss.
Right.
We'd have two separate.
It's just a site visit, yeah.
So, yeah, you have to be careful.
I'll talk to Brian tomorrow how logistically if it has to be
An open meeting.
or if it has to be, yeah. We'll make sure it's on the up and up, no matter what happens.
Great. All right. I know we all like being here, but can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So
Yes.
Oh, well, I have a present for everyone, especially Tim. I do have zoning bylaws, the
Oh,
latest
excellent.
and greatest.
Oh, nice.
I know Tim's been asking me since the
I
first
don't
month.
need those anymore. I have ChatGPT, so.
You're good? Really? You've been asking me the whole time you're on the board, and
I'll take one, I'll
I
take one,
finally
I'll
came
take
through.
Yeah. I've
If
been
you
PDF.
could all just sign A&Rs before you leave.
Right.
But I guess we should vote to.
Is there,
Yes, move to adjourn.
okay, Jim Sears moves. Gene seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.